What's up guys, welcome back to my self-titled YouTube channel. I am the eponymous Fiona. Thank you for joining me today as we take a deep dive into Sam from Stardew Valley. We are going to be talking about his likes, his dislikes, his character arc, his dialogue, his heart events, his sexy dad. We're going to judge his music. If you don't play Stardew Valley and you want a bit of a rundown, you can go back to my very first video I made in this series where I covered Alex from Stardew Valley, because in that video I give you like a little bit of a primer for newbies, but if not, you will be fine. I don't really think it's that complicated. Okay, look, first things first, the audio. I heard you, I hear you. You don't hear me so well, but I hear you. In the last video I had a new microphone and I got some comments saying that's better. I got more comments saying that's worse. I think what happened is because I kind of pinned it to my chest, and I'm quite like a rumbly speaker. I'm very like vocal fry, you know. I think what happened is that my like chest rumbles got caught in the audio, and then I tried to like cut that out in Audacity, but I think I overcompensated a little bit, or like I just couldn't cut it out without making it sound a bit tinny, you know. So I've got this thing now. Can I show you? It's actually kind of cool. This isn't sponsored. So I had the little clip-on mic, right? And it's just like on this stick. You just clip it onto the stick and you put this on. And then it's one of these. It's pretty cool. It's only like £20 because it's essentially just like a piece of plastic. But hopefully this helped. If this is still worse, I'll just use the old microphone. But it's the gain, because people keep telling me the videos are quiet with that other microphone. This shit is so complicated. You gotta learn how to edit. You gotta learn how sound works. You gotta learn how cameras work. I had to learn how to do my hair, kind of. I watched so many TikTok videos. I tried to do it kind of spiky, Y2K vibes. Because of Sam. I don't know if it paid off. Okay, so we are going to get into Sam very shortly, but firstly I'm just going to tell you a quick word about today's sponsor. If you've been wondering, oh, what's that super cute jewellery she's wearing? Well, I have good news for you. This video is sponsored by Ana Luisa, who make high quality, long lasting, tarnish resistant jewellery. I'm not really a jewellery person. If you look at pictures from my wedding, I literally just wore like one necklace. And I always have this big fear of them like turning me green, because that's happened before. I think it's really gross. But I've been wearing these two for a couple days now, and they're really comfy. I took a nap wearing both of them and they didn't get tangled in each other. And I don't know how that's even possible. I also really like the little clasp. It's really easy to get them on or off. I don't have to bug my husband every time I want to put something on. Every piece from Ana Luisa is rigorously tested for strength and resistance to humidity, as well as chemical and physical tests to guarantee the metals are safe, hypoallergenic, and tarnish resistant. Each piece also comes with a 2-year warranty that covers you against tarnishing, allergic reactions, water damage, or breakage, so you can shop with confidence. With 50,000 5-star reviews, they're clearly doing something right. Ana Luisa also provides free shipping to anywhere in the US, and super affordable shipping to anywhere else in the world. You can also exchange or return your pieces, and designs start from just $39. I love the kind of elevated simplicity of them. They're really great for layering. I've been throwing on a necklace on top of my cozy clothes while editing this video just to like feel a little bit more put together, you know. And I have to admit, I have fallen asleep while wearing them and slept for like 8 hours, and they're absolutely fine. I also went down into a cave recently. It was called Blue John Cavern in Castleton, up north, and I was 214 feet underground wearing an Ana Luisa necklace. So if that doesn't guarantee their hardiness, I don't know what will. Shop my favourite high-quality, long-lasting, affordable jewellery you'll love at prices you'll love even more. Just go to shop.analuisa.com/KW-FionaS. Now up to 30% off. Thank you so much to Ana Luisa for sponsoring this video. I genuinely really like the jewellery. I've been wearing it for like a week now. I'm like a jewellery girl now, I love it. Elevate your everyday with Ana Luisa. Okay, cool. Let's get into Sam. Sam time. Sam time.
You know, it just goes to show, with the right attitude, every single one of your dreams will always come true. And if your dreams don't come true, it's probably because you just didn't have the right attitude.
Shake well. I'm not supposed to drink coffee with my ADHD medication, but fuck it, we ball. Okay, I first feel like I have to address the hair. It's pixel art. It's subject to interpretation. You could imagine the real life equivalent of being like a Niall Horan vibe, or we could be less generous and veer a bit more towards Jedward. 2000's X Factor was so iconic. But honestly, it's very clear to almost everyone, except for me, that this is a Dragon Ball Z reference. So I have never seen Dragon Ball Z in my life. I know a few vague things about it from watching Super Eye Patch Wolf streams, but I know basically nothing. I've picked up that Vegeta is a good dad. I don't even know who that is, but he's a good dad. And I didn't learn anything about Dragon Ball Z for this video because I think that that's kind of funny. Last video when I did the famgent, how did I miss that? I googled Dragon Ball Z sound effect and I just put whatever came up in the video. It could have been like really inappropriate and I just wouldn't have known. So I think it's funny that I don't know anything about it. I'm going to try and like find some memes and put them in somewhere and they might just make no sense. Like I'm just going to try and like make references to it without ever having seen it. And I think that's funny. I've only seen like 3 animes. One of them was Yuri on Ice. We were born to make history. Coffee's working. So in Dragon Ball Z, there's a guy called Goku and he goes Super Saiyan, which as far as I know is just like he powers up. He gets really strong. Shonen vibes. Why? How? How's it work? Who knows? Not me. But he goes from having black hair to having this kind of hair. And that is just Sam's hair, right? You can buy a wig of the Super Saiyan blonde hair. And I thought about doing that, but then what would I do with that afterwards? I just end up throwing it away and that feels wasteful. So just appreciate their thought, I suppose. I bought this shirt. I didn't have a yellow shirt. That's the first time I've had to buy something for one of these videos. I have a lot of clothes. So look, I don't know how I feel about the hair. If he's just a Niall Horan type, then that's fine. That's kind of hot. But if he's walking around looking Super Saiyan, that's so extra. Look at his sprite. His hair looks insane. It's so distracting. I think it looks kind of fine in the portrait. It basically is the entire length of his head doubled. But it's not distracting in the same way. I just can't take his sprite seriously. He kind of gives Loki like Karen vibes. I've been reading a lot of Stardew Valley fanfiction recently, and in everyone that had Sam in it, it was like talking about how he takes like 40 minutes to get ready because he does his hair. Another quick thing about the hair, if we look at his regular portraits, you can see this kind of bit here that looks like, you know, a bit of a mullet or something. But then if we look at his beach portrait, it's gone. So my first instinct is to say that the yellow bit is like attached to his shirt. It's like a hood or something. But then if we look over here, that doesn't super make a ton of sense because it's like there's the collar and then why would the hood be there? Wouldn't it be part of the collar? I don't know, it's just weird. There are a lot of weird random mistakes in the sprites in the portraits. Like for example, his shirt is yellow, but in his sprite his shirt is red. So I don't know. I think we'll just have to let it go. Maybe when he goes to the beach he like bobby pins his hair back for some reason. I don't know. Either way, I love my blonde prints. Yeah, I tried to do like a little Y2K vibe, spiky thing. I'm not good at hair. This is the best it's going to get. I am wearing Sam's hoodie. Real Sam's hoodie. No, I haven't had a psychotic break. I don't think that this is the actual hoodie from Sam from Stardew Valley. I wish. My husband's name is Sam. There are too many Sams. Please don't call your kid Sam. Enough. Enough Sams. My best friend's husband is also called Sam, and every single conversation we have, it's like, your Sam? My Sam? Your Sam? Anyway, fun coincidence, but it's not that relevant. I just think it's cute. He's my husband. One more incredibly irrelevant, just for fun thing before we get into it. Like I said, I've been reading a lot of fanfiction recently, and every time Sam's in it, they say that he has blue eyes. They say, oh, his baby blue eyes. They're clearly grey. What are you on? A lot of the characters with their eye colour, it's like kind of hard to tell. But I feel like this is a pretty open and shut case. Well, he's got his eyes shut in those ones actually, but look at them, they're grey. Tell me I'm wrong. I feel so Ariana Grande coded because the hoodie's like too big for me, you know. Anyway, let's begin, as we always do, with Sam's synopsis from the devlog. Sam is an outgoing, friendly guy who's brimming with youthful energy. He plays guitar and drums, and wants to start a band with Sebastian as soon as he has enough songs together. However, he does have a habit of starting ambitious projects and not finishing them. Sam is a little stressed about the impending return of his father, who has been away for years due to his line of work. So yeah, Sam is kind of like very energetic and youthful. When you first meet Sam, he says, "Hey, I'm Sam. Good to meet you." Straight to the point. Simple, friendly. That's our boy. He works at Jojama on Mondays and Wednesdays, cleaning the floors. He's like a janitor. I love how he jams out to his tunes. He does not like his job, so he'll say, "I hate working at Jojama, but how else am I going to make money in this town? It's hard to have fun on Sunday. I keep thinking about having to go to work tomorrow." And when he doesn't have to work, he says, "I don't have to work tomorrow. I've never been so happy." I feel like when I'm reading his lines, you'll just see me in the blurry bit being like... If the Jojo Mart closes and he instead starts working at the museum, those lines about not wanting to go to work don't change. So it's not that Jojo sucks, it's that he just hates work. Yes, King. Strong agree. We all hate capitalism. As the synopsis says, his dad Kent is away due to his line of work. So his dad, Kent, is a soldier, and he's away on active duty in a place called the Gotoro Empire. Gotoro? Gotoro. I can't just Google it because there's not going to be a pronunciation guide. I think Gotoro. That sounds more like American. He lives with his mum, Jodie, and his little brother, Vincent. We're going to get to them later. It's coming, don't worry. Big family tangent. Huge. So Sam is very frequently headcanon to have ADHD. I have ADHD, if you can already tell. Let's examine our evidence. So he's very forgetful. I just remembered that I was supposed to do something, but I forgot. This happens to me all the time. Oh, I just remembered I'm supposed to call my grandma. Okay, I'm going to put this rubber band on my wrist so I don't forget. I have to make little reminders for myself, or else I'll totally forget to do things. I just remembered I need to change the strings on my guitar. Okay, I'm going to write a note on my wrist so I remember to do it tonight. I have to make little reminders for myself, or else I'll totally forget to do things. So he'll put rubber bands on his wrist, or like write little notes. It's a coping mechanism. It's like a strategy he's developed to help him be better at the things that he's bad at. This is very relatable to me. As I was writing this part of the script, I was literally staring at a post-it note on my monitor that said like, check on your Elvan's prescription. I use my calendar constantly so that I don't forget things. I make a list basically every day of my life. But then my husband also does all of those things and he doesn't have ADHD, so it's not like that's our conclusive evidence. If we look at some other stuff, he's also very distractible. Hey, how's it going? Last night I practiced guitar for 4 hours straight. My fingers hurt like crazy. Bye. I've got something to do. Bye. Hey, how's it going? I'm hungry. See you later. Hi, player. I wonder if I could grow a cactus in my room. My shoes always seem to wear out this time of year. Look, my toe's poking through. That's what happens when you skateboard too much. So he's full of these like non sequiturs. He's changing the subject randomly. He tends to just notice things and say them out loud. This could come across as like stereotypical ADHD of being like, hey, a squirrel. Like it's a bit cliche. But personally, that kind of is what I'm like. Even in my last video, in the penny video, there was a point where I was just like, ooh, lightning. ADHD is like a lack of ability to control your attention. So if something catches your eye, that's where your attention's going to go. That's what you're going to say. Not always out loud. Sometimes the like, ooh, squirrel will happen inside my head. But that's not as stereotypical as you might think. In my experience anyway. Sometimes things are stereotypical for a reason, you know. There's also that part in the devlog about how he tends to start projects and not finish them. I'm in this photo and I don't like it. The main reason I'm keeping Shane, aka my favourite character, until the end of this series is so that I have the motivation to do all of the other characters first. I never would have made a 2.5 hour video about Penny if I'd already talked about Shane. But I go through all of them and then I get my dessert. Similar to how Sam writes stuff on his wrist to remind him. ADHD, you know, is kind of like a process of adapting your behavior to like work with your impulses. You get older, you learn more about how your brain works through experience. You figure out these little life hacks. ADHD is kind of like a process of seeking dopamine, so setting myself little like rewards is really helpful personally. So if Sam has this habit of starting projects and not finishing them, that is very ADHD coded. It takes a lot of discipline to do something when you're not like obsessed with doing that thing. You have a lack of ability to direct your focus. Hyperfixations are very enjoyable, but it does mean you can just fall off of something as quickly as you like latched onto it. And then there's the issues with executive dysfunction, with time blindness. Having ADHD is really hard, you guys. This isn't like the most important thing to his character. It doesn't become like super relevant down the line, but I think it's good to just build our overall understanding of Sam. So surface level, 0 hearts reading of Sam and his dialogue. He is simple, carefree, unburdened, flourishing, moisturized, in his lane. Sometimes those spring petals that float around make my nose drip. I like summer best myself. Oh, hi. It's good to see you again. Take it easy. Did you ever notice all the spiderwebs that appear during the fall? If you get up early, you'll see them covered in dew, like little stars. Like little stars. And he's got this thrilling saga with his shoes. So on the 9th of fall, he'll say, I ordered a new pair of shoes online. They're the same style, so I know they'll fit right. And a week later, on the 16th of fall, he'll say, I ordered some shoes online more than a week ago. Man, they're really taking a long time. I guess we must really live in the middle of nowhere. Then another week later, on the 23rd of fall, you get the tantalizing conclusion. Ah, my feet feel great in these new shoes. They're a little crisp, but they'll break in. Especially after I run through the haunted maze this weekend. Like, there's a certain simplicity to him. An uncomplicated friendliness that I find quite endearing, honestly. I like bumping into him in the game and seeing what, like, random thing he has to say. He's so positive. I feel like if he were real, he would be one of those people where you hang out with them and then you just, like, feel really good afterwards. You tell him your problems and he just, like, hypes you up. so you feel like you can do anything. So let's get into his likes and dislikes. So he loves pizza, maple bar, and cactus fruit. For the cactus fruit, he has a line. Have you been to the desert yet? You can find some interesting things there. Dad took me a couple times when I was younger. If that line looks different when I put it on the screen, it's because it's not on the wiki. Thank you so much to one of my subscribers for sending me the text files of the game. I appreciate you so much. Look at me. I will never miss a line again. Ever. And if I do, you can blame me because it's my fault. So one of those interesting things you can find in the desert is cactus fruit. So that's cute. He had it when he was a kid. It reminds him of his dad or something. Maple bar and pizza seem to just be taste things. We all love pizza. It's popular for all the right reasons. He likes Joja Cola, which is notable because he is the only character who likes it. Even Shane and Pam, who have dialogue lines talking about drinking Joja Cola, hate it if you give it to them in 1.5. Anyway, I think it changes in 1.6. Maybe this is because they both would rather be drinking beer. So they see Joja Cola as a health drink. But Sam just unironically likes it. He probably also gets a discount on it from work, so that helps. He dislikes all vegetables, which goes with this idea of him being youthful. Ew, stinky vegetables. It could also link to the ADHD. I'm not a huge fan of vegetables, if I'm being honest. I don't hate them. I will eat them. But it doesn't spark joy in the same way that other food does. I tell my husband all the time there is a really thin line between me and scurvy, and that thin line is him. If I lived alone, I would just eat frozen pizza. So his hates include mayo and pickles. I'm sorry, Sam, but mayo and pickles are so good. Have you ever had a cheese toastie with pickles and mayo? Oh, so good. He's missing out. He also hates gold bar. He hates copper bar and iridium bar as well. And I was trying to think about why. And let me know if I'm getting too deep with this. Let me know if I'm too deep in the source, but maybe it's because the mining and hoarding of resources is the source of most, if not all, global conflict. If people didn't care so much about copper and gold and iridium, then his dad wouldn't have to be at war. His dad would be home. No? Yes? Maybe? Stop talking about war, because I don't know anything about war. Okay, I'll stop. Let's talk some more about his character. First of all, Sam reveals to you at 8 hearts that his name is actually Samson. I'll tell you a secret. My name Sam is short for Samson. Most people don't know that, so keep it on mute. Keep it on mute. I love that. It's huge, hello fellow kids vibes. Keep it on the DL. What's the 411? So get ready for a mini tangent. Samson is a guy from the Bible. Huge apologies in advance for the blasphemy that I'm about to do. I'm not religious at all. I'll probably say something offensive. So Samson was a guy who was super strong, and his power originated from the fact that his hair had never been cut. That's a whole thing in itself. That's a whole plot point. But it was a religious thing, and so this super long hair gave him power and strength. And I can't help but think about Tangled. Her hair gives her power. You cut it off and the power goes away. And according to the stardew wiki, Samson means sunchild or bright sun, which is very Tangled vibes, but I digress. So Samson, he falls in love with a woman and he tells this woman that his hair is the source of his power, but then she betrays him and she cuts his hair off while he's asleep. That's why you never love anyone, kids. The only thing I know about Samson is the Regina Spektor song, and she says, I cut his hair myself one night, a pair of dull scissors in the yellow light, and he told me that I'd done all right and kissed me till the morning light. And now it's I kind of understand that song, where I didn't before. Because in her retelling, I guess it's he wants to lose his power. The power is a burden. He'd rather that she consciously cut it off so that they could be together. Like Tangled. So, circling back to Sam. The fact that the name means sun child or bright sun is very Sam-coded. He's got this golden hair. He's all bouncy and energetic. He's a sun child. Does this whole story of Samson relate to Sam at all? Probably not. Maybe his parents are religious. His mum does say, yesterday I visited Yoba's altar to ask for my husband's safe return. I'm trying to stay positive, but it's hard sometimes. But then Yobaism is different to Christianity, Judaism. So where would she have got Samson from? I don't know. Fun bit of background for you. So let's talk about Sam's relationships. As I said, we'll talk about his family later down the line. Sam is BFFs 5 ever for life with Sebastian. He's become so numb. They're also in a band together, the Pelicans. Terrible name. Awful. Take a lap. Every Friday, Sam and Sebastian hang out at the saloon and they play pool. Sam is bad at pool, and Sebastian considers letting him win, but Nah. They also meet up on Saturdays and do band practice. When you're at Six Hearts with Sam, he will tell you, I've been friends with Sebastian for a while. He's a pretty cool guy. If you two weren't around, I wouldn't really have any friends in town. And when you're at Six Hearts with Sebastian, he'll say, Sam's really outgoing. So that was my angsty Sebastian voice. Sam's really outgoing. No, okay. Sam's really outgoing, so when we hang out, he does most of the talking. That's fine with me. Imagine if Sam was as reserved as I am. We'd hang out and never say a word. Some people are talkers, others are listeners. I'm more of a listener. We'll see more of their friendship as we move through the heart events, but a big part of their friendship seems to be like pranks. Like Sebastian says at the luau, one year Sam put a pound of anchovies in the potluck soup. Ever wondered why Sam leaves the town in community service hours? And when you're married to Sebastian, he'll say, it might be funny to put something disgusting in the potluck soup tomorrow. Just don't poison anyone. Why ruin the potluck? I guess some people feel liberated when the rigid structures of society break down a little. Maybe I'm weird. I'm weird. I'm a weirdo. I don't fit in and I don't want to fit in. But when you marry Sam, he will say, have you thought about what you're going to put in the soup? It might be funny to put something nasty. You know, play a prank on the governor. Sorry. So Sebastian is like, let's sabotage the establishment. The establishment of the soup. Fuck authority. Rage against the machine. Wah! And Sam is like, funny prank. Hee mischief. A lot of people ship Sam and Sebastian. I'm so on board with that. If you're selling tickets on that ship, I'm seated. I've got my snacks. I'm making a playlist to listen to while I write my fanfiction. It's classic grumpy sunshine. It's got a certain steric vibe to it. Imagine saying that sentence to a Victorian child. I've read some Sam and Sebastian fanfiction for this video. Yeah, for this video. For research. For billable hours, you know. And it is a compelling dynamic. There seems to be like a lot of that trope of like friends for years and they both are secretly in love with each other, but they don't tell each other because they don't want to ruin the friendship, but then it comes out somehow. And that is my jam. Excellent fanfiction trope. I love it. So Sam is also friends with Abigail. Put her as like a, hey guys, I'm here too. She's there when the two guys play pool at the saloon. But as I mentioned in her video, she doesn't join in. She does seem like kind of a third wheel in that dynamic. She does join their band, but it's as a bit of an afterthought. And she's never there when they rehearse. And Sam has this like list of Christmas presents that you can find. And Abigail's not on it. So they're not like tight. They're like casual friends. Sam is also friends with Penny. I went over this in Penny's video, but they hang out on the bridge sometimes. They climb trees together in a platonic way. They dance at the flower dance. Not much else to say. There is a fourth friendship that I would like to talk about. Can you guess what it is? What's that? The crowd. They're chanting his name. Shane, 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 Shane. I must sound so weird to my neighbours. My boy. So Sam and Shane both work at Jojo Mart. You can kind of see, that's not the best picture for it to be fair, but they've got the same like jacket. Why would you wear your jacket from work? Outside of work? Why would you do that? There is a huge like fan art thing of them being friends and hanging out because they work together. Once again, grumpy sunshine. This is why Shane is so valuable. There's so much sunshine in this game. You need the grumpy. You need it. I'll put some examples on the screen with like credits of, you know, the fan art, but yeah, there's loads of fan comics, there's loads of fan art of them being friends. Even though the game never once implies any kind of friendship, you know, it's just because they work together. And I love it. I eat it up. Nom nom nom. Disgusting. It's the perfect situation that I can see for Shane to make a friend because he is the kind of person who makes friends entirely against his will based on repeated exposure. Like he's friends with Emily because he goes to the bar every single day and she's always there, and I assume that she just kept trying to talk to him and she wore him down. The same with the player. You basically just have to keep bothering him until he puts up with you. So I can 1000% see Shane like blowing Sam off over and over. Sam coming over to him like every day and just being like, I'm bored. Who do you think would win in a fight? Pam or Willie? And over time, Shane just kind of like gets used to him, warms up to him a little bit, starts talking to him about eggs. Obsessed. Iconic. We stan. Do you think there's fanfiction of... Wait, why am I just thinking about this? There must be romantic fanfiction. I'm not. But the age difference. But then nothing's confirmed. We'll talk about that. Okay, so we're going to talk about his age, and I left this till last because there is just, again, so little to go off. Like, there is some stuff we can discuss, but there's so little, like, hard proof of any kind. And I don't really like going off just pure vibes. It makes me feel like I'm just kind of drifting out in space, making things up. But there's nothing else we can do, so we're going to drift. Drift with me. So there's the older bachelor's note, which tells you who are the older bachelors in town. Shane, Harvey. Oh, I have to take him down. Oh boy. Shane, Harvey, Elliot. And Shane isn't on that note. Oh, got Shane on the mind. And Sam isn't on that note, so he's a younger bachelor. So he's definitely not like in his, 30s. He gives very young vibes. So his hobbies include like playing his Game Boy. I'm 1,000 years old. He plays his Game Boy outside his house and he skateboards. So they're very like stereotypically teenage boy kind of hobbies. Bart Simpson vibes. There's also this interaction around his doctor's visit. So every character has a designated day of the year when they'll go to the clinic and they'll do like a checkup. Sam's is on the 11th of fall. If you talk to him before he goes to the clinic, he says, I gotta go visit Uncle Doctor today. Great. Uncle Doctor. What does that mean? If you check up on Sam during the appointment, he'll say, I'm a healthy boy, Doc. Can I go now? This is boring. And after the appointment, he'll say, I just got out of the doctor's office. Completely healthy and vigorous, just as I expected. So he says he's a healthy boy. He calls him Uncle Doctor. Is he 12? Is he 12? The fact that he calls himself a boy definitely gives that like young energy. But like, as we get into the heart events and the discussions and the psychoanalyzing, we're going to see that his like young behavior doesn't necessarily reflect his age. There are other reasons why he might be calling himself a healthy boy. So I'm going to put him anywhere from 18 to 22. I personally would say 22, but that's because I'm 27 and I don't want to feel weird about like low-key fancying him. Okay, I think we've covered our surface level information about Sam. I know there's more to do with his family, but we will bring that up later. Sam has a reputation for being kind of boring and not having like much to him. I've had a few comments on my videos saying like, I'm excited for the Sam video because I don't know how you're going to talk about him for like an hour. Joke's on you. Video's going to be like 2 hours. I'm sorry, I don't know what happened. I didn't mean to. It just happened, okay? It started out with a kiss. How did it end up like this? Sam is also, as I mentioned in the marry video, the second least popular marriage candidate, according to a Reddit survey. So he's got this reputation for being simple, not being very complex. And we're going to kind of lean into that a little bit. We're going to get more complex as we go along. I'm going to ease you into it. So for right now, we've just got this like anime protagonist, golden retriever. And we'll get into his 2-heart event. You walk into Sam's house and he's in his room with Sebastian. They're having band practice, playing this kind of electro pop music. They finish up and Sam turns to you, says they were just having a little jam session. They're trying to start a band, but don't know what kind of music to make. Sebastian looks stressed. Then Sam has an idea. Asks you what kind of music you like. You get a choice. Cheerful pop music, experimental noise rock, high energy dance music, honky-tonky country music. I answered with cheerful pop music, and he says that's exactly the kind of style he's been thinking about. He approaches Sebastian, asks, what do you say? Should we do this? Sebastian, stone-faced, replies, okay. Sam thanks you for your help, says that with his guitar skills and Sebastian's wizardry on the synthesizer, they're going to be a screaming success. Now he just needs to find someone to play drums. We fade to black. I'm sorry, the hoodie was making me really sweaty. I found something, let me show you. Why did that look backwards? It's mirrored in there. I'm so fucking dumb. In case of emergency, ask Sam. Hashtag source of all wisdom. My mum bought this for my husband. But that's kind of funny because Sam has a reputation for being dumb. I'm going to put my coffee in here. Quick, there's no time. Hurry. Into the narrative design tangent where it's safe. So, have you seen my Elliot video? No? Loser. If not, that's a really good one. You should watch it. I'm not biased or anything, but basically in that video I talk a lot about Elliot's storyline, how in the 2-heart scene you can choose the genre of his book, and how that's a weird choice because it's unrealistic. It kind of tanks my suspension of disbelief. Basically how you're able to make this huge creative decision for Elliot, and it's not only like a missed opportunity to characterize him, but it paints him as like a personality vacuum, and it makes him stand out as like entirely fictional. because you can just like push him around, you know? And you might expect me to say the exact same thing about Sam here. You're barely friends. He asks you what kind of music you like, and whatever you say, that's just the kind of music he decides that his band will play. It's a weird choice in pretty much the same way as the Elliot one, in that like, what kind of music does Sam like? What kind of music does he want to make? As well as this, you've got Sebastian in the mix. Sebastian just doesn't react if Sam decides that you're going to play honky-tonky country music. This emo-ass My Chemical Romance motherfucker doesn't have anything to say about that. Really? And that was my original view, way back, you know, when I was writing my like original thoughts down back in September. How was that September? The ravages of time. I had the exact same feelings about this scene that I did the Elliot scene, but now, in 2024, with my big brain, having thought extensively about this little guy, I kind of like this choice. So let's look at the choice. He says, we're trying to start a band, but we still don't know what kind of music to make. There's too many possibilities. Then Sebastian looks stressed. Sam has an idea. He asks you, what kind of music do you like? And whatever you answer, Sam will always say, hey, you know what? That's exactly the kind of style I've been thinking about for the band. I think that is significant. I think it's kind of like a bad lie. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. For the band. I don't think it's just supposed to be like divine intervention that you read his mind. I think he's just relieved to have someone take the decision out of his hands. He specifically says that they're struggling to pick a genre because there's too many possibilities. This is a theme for Sam. Indecision. Struggling with choices. Especially big decisions, like this one. That makes it really funny that the mug says, ask Sam. Don't ask him. He won't be able to tell you. We'll come back to that in a second, but for now we're going to stay on the choice itself. So Sebastian just agrees. And like I said, you would think that this Evanescence-ass, Ebony Dementia Darkness Raven Way motherfucker wouldn't want to play pop music, but I just don't think he cares. It took me so long just now to memorize Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way. Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way. Sebastian doesn't have any dialogue about the band. He doesn't have any musical instruments in his bedroom. He doesn't talk about it, even once. His heart events don't touch on it at all. Whereas Sam has all the instruments. He has a drum kit, even though they don't have a drummer. When Sam tells you in the Two Heart that they can't pick a genre, Sebastian reacts as stressed. I think that Sebastian has been listening to Sam stress about picking a genre for like months, going back and forth, trying to find his heart song. And Sebastian just like doesn't care anymore. Maybe he did once, but for now he just wants to hang out with his friend and play music. He doesn't really care what the genre is. He doesn't put as much stock into the band as Sam does. Sebastian has like an entirely different plan for his life, whereas Sam like wants to be a musician. Sam is the driving force behind the band. Sebastian's just like along for the ride. So when Sam says, shall we do this? Sebastian just says, okay, because he doesn't really care. So this choice, I do think it's good from like a thematic point of view when you really dive deep into it like that, but this is coming from me, who has seen all of the heart events, who has like spent a week thinking very deeply about Sam and all of his nuances. On a first reading of this scene, it very much does come across as like he's a One Direction. It's because I wrote 1D, so my immediate thought is One Direction. On a first reading, it very much does come across as he's just like a one-dimensional character who you can just tell what to do. You know, people think that he's boring and that he's simple, and he does come across that way in this scene. It's another case of it's easy to write a scene off in this game, especially the early ones, before you get into any like complexity. And since the scenes are shown in chronological order, you're not really going to get a chance to go back and re-examine the early ones. So that is kind of a weakness. I think the themes could have been clearer if maybe we'd seen Sam agonizing a little bit more over the decision. Like when you enter, they're playing this like electro-pop kind of music. Maybe Sebastian could have been like, oh, that was really good, let's do that. But Sam could have said like, oh, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, kind of thing. Like made it clearer that this wasn't just like some snap decision that they were coming to, that this was like a running conflict. Or maybe I'm just being incredibly generous with this like simplistic scene. Maybe it's given me an inch and I've run a mile. Maybe I've just written a Sam and Sebastian fanfiction by accident. I do think that the themes are there. I do think it's intentional, but this game is sometimes lacking in the execution. There are ways to be subtle without being so subtle that you need someone to spend an entire week thinking about it, writing tens of thousands of words about it just to like see it from a new point of view. Anyway, end of narrative design tangent. First, I want to talk more about his indecisiveness, and then we're going to talk about his friendship with Sebastian. So Sam is struggling with this decision. He says there's too many possibilities. Mini tangent. Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once? If you haven't, get on that. It's basically like a multiverse movie where the main character, Evelyn, no relation, keeps wildly jumping between universes, seeing all the different ways that her life could have played out. In her reality, she's unhappy. She thinks she could have done more. And in all of these other realities, she did do more. She's a movie star, she's a scientist, she's a singer. But, minor spoilers, the grass is always greener. Her in those other realities have regrets as well. They have their own reasons to be jealous about her reality. One version of her longs for the one that got away, who is the very man that Evelyn married and blames for ruining her potential. Essentially, the message of the film is, you have one reality. Don't waste your time like living in these other ones that could have been. Appreciate what you have, because there's always going to be things that you don't have. 如果有来生，我还是会选择和你一起报税，开始一点。And this movie hit me like a fucking train. So it makes complete sense that it was made by someone with ADHD. One of the filmmakers, Daniel Kwan, actually realised he had ADHD while he was researching it for the film. This movie, obviously, when you look at it now, was made by someone with ADHD. And it's just funny how many people have come up to me after screenings and said, this feels like you're in my brain. And yeah, it feels like they're in my brain. I'm not super hyperactive as an ADHD person. I'm tired all the time, but my brain tends to be very hyperactive. Every decision I have to make, my brain goes like 5,000 miles an hour to show me, you know, all the different ways it could go wrong and all the different possibilities and everything that I would be like missing out on if I chose X over Y. I doubt everything in my life, basically against my will, because my brain moves too fast to like hold any of it back. Like I said, with ADHD, you don't really get a choice as to where your attention goes. It's everything, everywhere, all at once. Do you see what I did there?
Hey,
that's the name of the show. All this to say, this is another reason that I think Sam has ADHD. He says there are too many possibilities. He wants to move forwards with the band, but he can't because of this like decision paralysis. And everyone knows what that feels like, right? It's not just an ADHD thing. We've all had the situation where you're like, what do you want for dinner? And that other person just keeps saying, I don't mind, whatever you want. And it's like, that's not helpful. Pick something. I'm sure Sebastian kept saying to Sam, like, I don't care what the genre is, just pick one. But like, that's not helpful. Sam can picture them as a country band and as a pop band and as a metal band and as a dance band. And to go down just one of those paths would be to sever the other three. And he can like feel that. So when you come along, the decision can be out of his hands. The decision's not actually out of his hands. He does make the decision to go with whatever you choose, but that's easier for him. If it goes wrong, he would feel less regret and guilt because it wasn't his call. He wants you to push him around like he's a fictional character. He wants to be one-directional. If we think about his broader life as well, has he made any decisions for himself, ever? He works at Jojo Mart, but he tells you that he hates working there, so it probably wasn't his idea, and he hasn't like made that decision to quit. He only stops working there when he has to, when it shuts. We had the thrilling saga of his shoes earlier, but he's just buying the same pair of shoes year after year. Why? Why does he feel like he can't make his own decisions? He's not like insecure. He does say he thinks the band will be a screaming success. So why does he trust everyone around him more than he trusts himself? At this point, these are questions that we don't have answers to, but we will come back to them. So let's talk about Sebastian. He has those lines that we read earlier. Sam's really outgoing. So when we hang out, he does most of the talking. That's fine with me. Imagine if Sam was as reserved as I am. We'd hang out and never say a word. Some people are talkers. Others are listeners. I'm more of a listener. So it's this extrovert-introvert dynamic of Sam talks, Sebastian listens. And we see that in this scene, you know, as we said, Sam is like the driving force. I do wonder like how close they are emotionally. In Sebastian's two-heart scene, Sam sends him an instant message to hang out, and Sebastian says he doesn't want to. He doesn't feel like going out today, which is fine. Same. But we don't see him reply to Sam and tell him that. We just see him like get back to work. So he kind of like ignores him. And if they have this dynamic of Sam talks, Sebastian listens, I just don't think their friendship is particularly deep. They seem to have a kind of, for lack of a better term, boy friendship. Very anecdotally, boys seem to have friendships about like hobbies. My husband and his friends mostly talk about like things that they're working on and like things happening in the tech industry. And I'll say to him, oh, is this guy still with his girlfriend? And he'll be like, I don't know. We don't talk about that kind of thing. I do love talking about that kind of thing with my friends. I spent like an hour last week talking to my best friend about the new season of Doctor Who. But if that went away, we would still have this very strong emotional bond. And I just don't know if Sebastian and Sam have that. I think Sam wants that, but you can't really have that without reciprocation. If Sam is talking, Sebastian can't just listen, he has to talk back. We'll get into Sebastian next video, because I suspect there's complex reasons behind why he's so like closed off. But you know, I think maybe it's like a friendship of proximity. They're similar ages in this small town, and Alex has some like super judgy dialogue about Sebastian, so they wouldn't want to be friends with that guy. It's still a friendship, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that they're not friends. Not every friendship needs to be like deep and emotional, you know? But I feel kind of bad for Sam. He's doing all of the talking, and he's getting nothing back. So, to summarise. I'm going to summarise.
Karen and Claude, I'm going round again.
Sam wants to move forwards with the band, but he also wants someone else to make the big decisions for him. He's indecisive. He doesn't trust himself. And Sebastian isn't very helpful with this because they don't talk about their feelings. So, let's move on to our next heart event. Sam has a 3-heart event. Scandal. No one else has a 3-heart event. He's a special boy. You can only get this event in your first year of gameplay, and we will see why as we get into the scene. Sam and Vincent are at the beach. Vincent's building a sandcastle. Sam greets you, says, "It's a nice day." He's just keeping an eye on his brother. It's good for him to get some fresh air on a day like this. He smiles and says their dad would take them to the beach on sunny days like this. Vincent seems to hear this, jumps up and walks over, asks, "Sam, is Dad ever going to come home?" Sam looks stressed, kneels down and says their dad's going to come back as soon as he can. Then Vincent says he heard some grown-ups say that all of our troops are getting shot to pieces. Sam's shocked, says, "Don't believe everything you hear. Their dad is strong. He'd never let a pathetic go-to-row grunt get him. Don't worry." He tells Vincent that he and their mum are here to play with him if he ever feels lonely. Vincent looks happy again, says okay, and goes back to his sandcastle. Sam looks worried, tells you that, to be honest, he has no idea if their dad will come back. Reportedly, soldiers are falling by the thousands. But what is he going to say to Vincent? You get a choice. It's best to be honest with kids. You did the right thing. Kids should have hope. I said he did the right thing, and he agrees. Kids should play and have fun while they still have the chance. Then he turns to you and says, the band's starting to come together. Turns out Abigail's a pretty good drummer, and Sebastian seemed to want her in the band. We fade to black. Okay, it is time for the family tangent. The famgent. the family. Shut up. Sam Hoodie is back on. This is Family Tangent Part 1, by the way. We are going to come back to this. I'm going to tread a little carefully here because I do not know about war. It's a subject I can only really talk about quite vaguely because it's not a particular interest of mine. I'm not very well versed. I have watched documentaries and stuff, but it's something that just doesn't seem to be able to stick in my head very well. I'm basically an extremely forgetful person, so any kind of fact just slides out of my head. So I would love to talk to you in depth about the Goto Empire, compare the conflict to some real world historical conflict. But I'm not the right person to do that. So the conflict itself with the Goto Empire, we're mostly going to tiptoe around, but I think we can all agree that war is bad. Free Palestine. So Sam's dad is Kent. He is a soldier. During your entire first year of gameplay, he's not there because he's off in active service. He's been gone for 3 years. Sam will say when he gets back, I have mixed feelings about my father being back. He seems strange, but I guess I haven't seen him in 3 years, so that could explain it. And we will talk about Kent getting back in Family Tangent Part 2. So you only get the 3-heart scene in your first year because Kent is away. He comes back at the very beginning of your second year, so it wouldn't make sense, to have Vincent ask Sam when their dad was going to get back, if he was already back. Sam also talks about his dad in dialogue. My dad's a soldier, fighting against the Goto Empire. That's why he's not here. He'll come back someday. I've heard some terrible things about the Goto Empire. I think my dad might be coming back next year. I guess that's kind of soon. Weird. So that second line suggests a kind of a detachment from his dad. He's not excited. He just says it's weird, which makes sense. If Kent has been gone for 3 years, you'd get used to him not being there. But that first line says that he's heard some terrible things about the people that his dad is fighting. And he says here in this scene that he's read the reports that the troops are falling by the thousands. And if you go into Sam's house, the TV in the lounge is always set to the news, just in case. It paints this picture of Sam has almost no information about what's happening to his dad, but the information that he does have is really bad. And that sounds incredibly stressful. Every single day of your life just like filled with anxiety. I looked into the effect of deployed parents on kids, and I found this. It's from 2013, so, it's a bit out of date, war-wise. More than 2 million children in the US have had a parent deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq. When a parent goes to war, and often for years afterward, families are deeply affected. Young children are especially vulnerable because they're physically and emotionally dependent on adults, and because their brain development can be disrupted by high levels of stress. When young children experience high levels of stress and trauma, the effects can continue well after their parents' military service ends, when their families may have less access to needed supports. There have also been loads of studies into the effects of this on children. This one in particular that I found looked into 272 children, and it found that parental combat deployment has a cumulative effect on children that remains even after the deployed parent returns home, and that is predicted by psychological distress of both the active duty and at-home civilian parent. We're in video essay territory now, bitch. There's a study. So kids, basically, their brains are growing and developing, and stress affects that. Can lead to poor mental health or behavioural issues or lasting trauma. And as that study found, the worse the parent is doing, the worse the child tends to be doing as well. And that brings us to Jodie. Jodie is an interesting character. On the surface, she's perfect. She's the perfect mum. Last video, I called her the ultimate trad wife. But Jodie has a lot of depth to her. So she spends a huge amount of her time at home. She has a few other things going on. She goes to like the aerobics class, but she's basically like a stay-at-home mum, like a homemaker. Exercise is important for staying healthy. I always make sure to set aside some time for it. As a parent, I don't have much time to devote to myself, so I try and make every minute count. I wish I could spend more time outside, but there's so much work to do. I started wearing rubber gloves to keep my hands soft. The older you get, the more work you have to do to stay healthy. Okay, bye. So we hear her talk about chores and stuff, kind of boring dialogue about menial things, but buried inside that are the sentiments that she doesn't have a lot of time to devote to herself. She wishes she could spend more time outside. And this is something that we see more if you get to know her. That theme really comes to the surface. At 8+ hearts, she'll say, "I had a dream that I had complete freedom, no obligation to anyone but myself. Then I woke up and realised I had a full day of house chores ahead of me." And she also has a line, "We kind of rushed into our marriage, with Kent being a soldier and all. I hardly got a taste of youth and freedom, and now it's too late to ever go back. Just don't make the same mistake." So they rushed into their marriage. Jodie and Kent are both very young looking for having this 20-year-old son. I don't know much about this, but there is that stereotype of people in the military rushing into marriages because you get better benefits or something. And also I suppose you want to kind of lock it down before you get deployed. So we can assume that this isn't the first time that Kent has been deployed, if it was a factor in their marriage. He's probably been leaving for years at a time through their whole marriage. It's no wonder that Sam doesn't feel super connected to him. They all talk about him while he's gone like he's more of a concept than a person. Jodie even says to Vincent when she takes him to the doctor, "Be brave, Vincent. Think of your father." Like he's some kind of mythical figure. Close your eyes and think of England. So Jodie is running this household by herself without her husband and has been doing that on and off for years. That's got to be a huge stress in her life. But we saw earlier that those complaints are kind of buried inside her dialogue, wrapped in other things, made to come across as casual and not a big deal. She's trying to come across as just busy, but deep down she's got all these thoughts and doubts. But it does make sense that she would try to bury those feelings, because if they came to the surface, then what? What can she do about it? She can't abandon her family. She's got these responsibilities and they're not going away. Nothing is going to change for her, so how can she face the fact that she wishes that it would? So Jodie affects Sam's character in that she's his parent. She's raised him, she's shaped him. She has a line, "Maybe I've spoiled the boys a bit. They've never had to do any chores. I guess I want them to be able to enjoy their childhood while they still can." Well, Sam's basically a man now, though. I hope he hasn't grown up to be lazy. That won't do. Being a parent isn't very easy. So we can bring this back into what she said about rushing into her marriage with Kent. She never had any youth or freedom, so she wants to make sure that her kids can enjoy that for as long as they can, giving them what she never had. But she's struggling with that balance of discipline. Do you make them clean their room to teach them responsibility? Or is that dampening their childhood spirit? Where's the line? How much freedom should you give them? And I think this is such a, I don't want to say a relatable question because I don't have kids, but it's a very understandable question. It sounds really hard. I'm sure that's a question that parents deal with all the time. This is really random, but I do think that she is a good mum precisely because she worries about these things. Her intentions are obviously good. She's thinking about her effect on her children. I doubt that Pam is sitting there thinking, am I putting too much on Penny? Is this damaging her? No, she just doesn't think about it. Like Jodie says, being a parent isn't very easy. I think she's doing as well as she could be in this situation. It's just kind of an impossible situation. So she says the boys have never had to do any chores. She also has a line at 6+ Arts. Where does all the time go? I remember when Sam was a little baby wearing diapers. He was such a cute little kid. Don't tell him I said that. You must really like talking to me, huh? So she's doing that thing a lot of parents do of like, where did the time go? My little baby is all grown up. My mum's definitely done that to me a couple times. And she says in that other quote that Sam is basically a man, despite the fact that he isn't basically a man. He is a man. He's at least 18. He has a job. He's still super young. He's naive. His brain's not developed, but legally, he's a man. He's a man. He's a big man. So she's kind of like infantilizing him, still doing his chores for him because he is still in his childhood in her eyes. There also might be an element of she doesn't want Sam to change a lot. She doesn't want him to really grow up while his dad is away, because that's just kind of sad for Kent to come home and for Sam to be like really different. But that's kind of a futile gesture if so, because that is what happens. But we'll get to that in Family Tangent Part 2. All this to say, Sam has had a pretty easy ride from his mum. He doesn't have to cook or clean or do chores. She wants him to have this unburdened freedom. So why does he feel this intense responsibility in this scene? In Penny's video, we talked about parentification, how parents can put too much on their child, too much responsibility, too much stress, and it affects the child's development. This scene with Sam would make sense if Jodie had told him, like, look after your brother, don't talk to him about the war. But I don't think that she would do that. I think Sam is kind of parentifying himself. He sees this hole where his dad was, and he kind of fills it. The idea of there being like a man of the family is obviously very outdated, but it's essentially that. He sees his mum struggling, he sees his dad come and go over the years. He steps up. He takes on some of those like fatherly duties to Vincent. The way he talks about Vincent in this scene is so dad-coded. It's good for him to get some fresh air on a day like this. And he says that their dad used to take them to the beach on days like this, and here he is, taking Vincent to the beach on a day like this. He reassures Vincent about their dad, despite having doubts himself. He struggles with that exact same question that Jodie does. Is he letting Vincent enjoy his childhood? Or is he, like, shielding him from reality? Where's the line? How much freedom should you give? Now I could have told you, Vincent, this world was never meant for one as beautiful as you. Sam has to like compartmentalize his emotions here. He has to put on a brave face for his brother. He's taking on all of that fear and stress so that Vincent doesn't have to deal with it. So he can play and have fun while he still has the chance. The similarities to what we said about Jodie are undeniable. And there's also how he describes their dad as strong. In Penny's video, we went over how in her 8-heart cutscene, Vincent describes Sam as strong. He saw him lift Miss Penny clear off the ground last night while they were climbing into a tree. And okay, objectively hot. Imagine you're hanging out with Sam and he just randomly just picks you clear up off the ground. Couldn't be me, because I'm chubby, but we have no choice but to simp. I can't believe I just essentially wrote a Sam from Stardew Valley imagine. Imagine Sam is in your ear. How did he get in there? But Sam isn't like a weightlifter, like Alex. He has what like could be interpreted as a dumbbell in his bedroom, but it's not clear, as opposed to Alex's room, which is just very clearly like a gym. So to get so strong to be able to just pick Penny up, he must have been working out. You don't get that strong by accident. Maybe he's been doing like push-ups or something. There is kind of like a reference to the possibility of him doing push-ups in the 10-heart scene. So him, you know, being strong, trying to be strong kind of further enforces that idea that he's trying to step into the role of his dad. So basically this scene shows that Sam, despite like being seen as a kid by his mum, sees himself as like Vincent's kind of father figure almost. I don't think it's that Jodie is putting these caregiving responsibilities on him. I think he's taking them on himself. He works 2 days a week, and it's not clear where the money goes, whether he's supporting their family or he's just like, you know, putting it aside. Jodie probably gets money from Kent, like being in the army. With all that we know about Jodie, all that we've gone through, I don't see her like making him get a job, making him pay rent. I actually take back what I said earlier. I do think that Sam made the decision to work at Joja Mart. He probably saw it as like the responsible adult fatherly thing to do. He hates it, he wants to quit, but he feels like he can't. And that's a different kind of indecision when you invent a reason why you can't do what you want. Do you see now? Do you see? He's deep. He's complex. No choice but to stand. For the 4-heart event, you walk into Sam's house and he's in the kitchen. He says, "Hi, He was just about to have a snack. He says he'll get something for you, and gets an egg from the fridge, but then drops it on the floor. He says, "Oh no, what a mess." Jodie comes rushing in, asks, "What was that sound?" She sees the egg and gasps, says, "This is absolutely terrible. What happened?" Sam says, "Tell her, player, and you get a choice." Sam dropped the snack as he was handing it to me. Sam handed me the snack and then I dropped it. Sam dropped it on purpose. He thought it would be funny. I picked that Sam dropped the snack. And he says, "You're right. That's what happened." Jodie says, "Thanks for telling the truth. It's not such a big deal." Sam says he's sorry and he'll clean it up. Jodie reacts with a heart, says, "Thanks," and walks off as we fade to black. Okay. Similar to the 2-heart scene, we have here another scene that seems like one thing on the surface, a morality scene. One of those stardew scenes that has a clear moral to it, where it waggles its finger at you and tells you off for doing something wrong. Right? You're clearly supposed to tell the truth in this scene. But if you tell the truth, you lose 10 friendship points with Sam. If you take the fall, if you say that you dropped it, you gain 50 friendship points. So, it's not a morality scene. Or if it is, it's got a different sense of morality to normal. So let's zoom out a bit. This scene is kind of weird. They both freak out so much over an egg. Jodie gasps at the egg, says it's absolutely terrible. Why are they so invested in this egg? Don't cry over spilt egg. As we said, Jodie is under all of this domestic stress. She's constantly busy, constantly overwhelmed. She has this one line, "Housework is frustrating because you're never finished. The day after I sweep the floor, it's dirty again." So she's frustrated because of this endless cycle of housework. You're never just done. She is Sisyphus, pushing the boulder up the hill, only for it to roll back down again. And her arms are getting tired. So when Sam drops the egg, I think it's just one more thing that she has to clean up. One more setback in the face of this impossible goal. I think what happens here is because of this, her first instinct is to take it really hard, to take it as some kind of slight, to react with anger, to say it's absolutely terrible. She asks you what happened, as if assigning blame is going to help anything. If something is spilled, that's not a super productive thing to ask. Who spilled it? It doesn't really matter. But we can see with this choice that it actually does matter. If you tell her that you dropped it, or that Sam dropped it, and it was an accident, she says, "Thanks for telling the truth. It's not such a big deal." She immediately calms down. The mountain is a molehill again. Her thoughts catch up with her feelings. I think we've all been there of you spill something and you just cry for 10 seconds because you've had a rough day, but then you're fine. It's not a big deal. It's not something that you would usually freak out over. If you tell Jodie that Sam dropped it on purpose though, you don't get that line from her about it not being a big deal, because that is a big deal. Her own son is making mess on purpose because he thinks it's funny. She's validated in that feeling of anger and frustration, that feeling like the world is against her. And then when Sam says he's sorry and he'll clean it up, she's back to normal, because that's contradictory. That kind of overrides everything else. He's sorry. She doesn't have to clean it up, so it's not such a big deal. If we look at the choice from Sam's point of view, at the start of the scene, Jodie is just standing, staring at a door. She rushes in as soon as there's any kind of noise. Have you ever dropped an egg on a kitchen floor? I can't imagine that is a very loud noise. So she's tense. She's reactionary. I think it goes along with that infantilization. She feels like she needs to watch him, like he's a child. And Sam treats the egg like it's a big deal as well. He has this big reaction when he drops it. He says, "Oh no, what a mess." Realistically, you would expect Sam to be like, "Whoops, butterfingers." But he treats it as seriously as his mum does. And I feel like it's because he knows what she's like. He knows she's just around the corner. He knows that she's overwhelmed. He has a line of dialogue he'll say to you. "Try not to make a mess in the house, or my mum will flip." So, this is something that he's observed. Whether or not she's told him any of this directly, he's smart. He's noticed. Even though she might not want to, put responsibilities onto him, he's still noticed. He's grown up with her. He's adapted to her behaviour. It's like we talked about with parentification. It's not on purpose. I don't think that Jodie will have told Sam, "Don't you dare drop any eggs in this house." But kids learn what their parents need. If you drop enough eggs, you're going to learn, "She hates it when I drop eggs," But then Sam turns to you. You'd think with this that Sam would know how to handle Jodie the same way that Penny knows how to handle Pam. But Sam says, "Tell her, player, and you get the choice." He hands the reins over to you. I think this is the difference between parentification and infantilization. Just because he knows what's going on doesn't mean that he knows how to deal with it. I think when Jodie comes in and she's mad, Sam goes into that infantilized role. He feels like a child. He has that indecision again, like we mentioned in the 2-heart scene. As we said, he hasn't made a lot of decisions for himself. He's lacking a certain independence. It's another situation where he can pass the choice off to you. If you tell the truth, he agrees with you. If you take the fall, he agrees with you. He only pushes back if you say that he did it on purpose, because that's not a good outcome for him. And you lose 50 friendship points, because he trusted you. He gave you that choice, and you betrayed him. So yeah, if we think more about those friendship points, how you lose them if you tell the truth, but you gain them if you lie. From Sam's more childlike point of view in that moment, if you take the blame, that's kind of like you falling on your sword for him. It's a gesture of friendship. He doesn't feel guilty about the lie. He feels relieved not to be blamed. And if you tell the truth, it might be the truth. It might technically be the right thing to do. But from his point of view, it's kind of like you're like telling on him to the teacher. No one likes a tattletale. It's complicated. It's not as simple as Sam is infantilized. Sam is parentified. It's kind of both. Like we said in the 3-heart scene, I don't think Jodie pushed Sam into the parentification of Vincent. I think he took that on himself, but he would only have taken it on if he felt like that was needed. I think that no matter how hard Jodie tried, Sam could sense those unfulfilled needs that she had, her overwhelm, and so felt like he had to step up in certain ways while still remaining her child. And now he's in this kind of limbo state of not a girl, not yet a woman. I'm not a girl. How many eggs must a man drop in the kitchen before you can call him a man? So these 3-heart events we've gone through so far paint quite a nuanced picture of Sam. Again, they're all quite easy to be written off. I myself originally thought of this scene as just like a morality scene, filler, but we are plumbing his hidden depths. And we shall continue to do so in the 6-heart scene. Sam is in town, on his skateboard in front of Emily and Haley's house. He does a skateboard trick on their flower box before bumping right into Mayor Lewis. They're both surprised, the skateboard flying off into the distance. Lewis is angry, asking Sam what he thinks he's doing. That's private property. Sam stumbles over his words, says he's sorry, calls Lewis Sir. Lewis sighs, disapproves of the youth these days, says they're dooming the town. The player emerges from the bush they were standing behind for some reason, and approaches. Lewis asks what you have to say about the situation, and you get a choice. You're right, sir. Sam should respect private property. Don't blame Sam. There's nowhere else for him to ride. I'm staying out of this. I said not to blame Sam, and Sam agrees, says if there was a park in town, he'd ride there, and everyone would be happy. Lewis is frustrated, says he thought you were more mature than this. Then he apologises to Sam for yelling at him, and tells him to try not to damage anything in the future. Got it? Sam turns away and looks stressed, before replying, yes, sir. Lewis walks off, and Sam turns to you with a smile, says, did you see that trick though? That was rad. The player responds with an exclamation point, and we fade to black. Just getting cozy. So we see this theme of youth versus maturity coming up again. Lewis complains about youths. Youths! And he says he thought that you were more mature than this. He talks about private property like it's sacred. I'm sure neither Haley or Emily would give a fuck about their flower bed. They might be kind of pissed off if he ended up ruining whatever they've got planted there. But a little like scratch or scuff on the wood, I don't think they would care at all. It's right by the walkway in the middle of town. You're not going to be able to keep it pristine forever. I think Lewis is projecting a lot here. He's the only person in town with a fence around their property, except for where it's needed to keep animals in. We discussed last video how Lewis puts an emphasis on privacy, his private belongings. So yeah, he's obviously very horny for private property. So Lewis says, the youth these days. Sometimes I wonder if this town isn't doomed. See my last video for proof as to why Lewis is the one dooming the town. But for now, I want to talk about this idea of youths. Youths! So, allow me to read you a couple of quotes about how young people suck and are ruining everything. Many of the millennials in today's workforce have more confidence than they do competence. Young people are high-minded because they have not yet been humbled by life, nor have they experienced the force of circumstances. That first quote is from 2017 from the Irish Independent. That second quote is from Aristotle. 4th century BC. Bet you didn't expect some surprise Aristotle jump scare. Aristotle mentioned You know how to ball, I know Aristotle. I found this BBC article with dozens of these contradictions. People complaining about millennials doing something wrong. And then similar quotes all through different periods of history, complaining about the exact same thing. The youths are always doing something wrong. Right now it's the phones. The phones are ruining everything. It's not that, you can see the news on your phone and the world is really bad and depressing and the economy is terrible and climate change. No, it is the phones, guys. So we can see here that Lewis has this idea of maturity and he's trying to push that onto Sam and onto you. A mature person would never disrespect private property. A mature person would never defend Sam's right to skateboard in town. To him, a mature person is just him. He's protecting. And Sam is intimidated by this, I think. When they first come face to face and Lewis yells at him, he kind of fawns. He stumbles over his words. He says, "Yes, sir." It's like what we saw in the foreheart scene when Jodie comes into the kitchen. He goes into that childlike point of view. Sam is used to being infantilized by adults. He's used to being told what to do, even as an adult himself. He sees this authority figure and he's being told that he's done something wrong. So he just accepts that as true and correct. And when you come along and disagree, when you say, "Don't blame Sam," that's when he stands up for himself. He says that if there was a park, he would skate there. It's like you're reminding him in this moment that he is allowed to stand up for himself. Because Lewis doesn't really have power over him. He's the mayor, but he's not a cop. What's he gonna do? But that doesn't really occur to Sam until you point it out. I wonder about Sam's perception of himself. We've seen that Jodie thinks of him as a child, struggles to accept the idea that he's a man. Lewis thinks of him as a youth. Youths! How does Sam think of himself? Does he see himself as a boy or as a man? I'm not a girl. I don't really know how Sam thinks of himself. I think he's struggling with that question the same as I am. We see him switch between childlike, apologizing to Lewis, and more adult-like, standing up for himself, and then more childlike again at the end there when he says, "Yes, sir." I think he's, bombarded by all of these different perceptions and roles and responsibilities that he's as confused as we are. I think a big reason that he switches between these roles in this scene is for the purpose of peacekeeping. He says that if there was a park, he would ride there and everyone would be happy. He apologizes to Lewis. He calls him sir. He submits to his authority. Then when you take Sam's side, he switches over because now he's got someone to back him up. Now it's not, going to cause some big argument necessarily with Lewis. The peace has already been a bit rattled. He may as well go with it. Then at the end, when Lewis says, "Make sure you don't damage anything," he turns away. He looks stressed and he says, "Yes, sir," smoothing everything over. I think a part of this as well is the friendship points, or the lack thereof. You don't gain or lose any friendship points in this scene. You would think it would be a classic Stardew case of you get friendship points if you take Sam's side, you lose them if you take Lewis's side, and nothing happens if you stay neutral. But all options are neutral. There are no friendship points. If we compare this to the foreheart scene where you do gain and lose friendship points, the option that makes him look best in his mum's eyes gains you friendship points. He wants to keep the peace with her more than anything. He wants to make her life easier. But here with Lewis, I don't think he cares about Lewis that much. Based. He doesn't know the nuances and the ins and outs of Lewis's life. Plus, Lewis is the one who asked for your opinion here. It wasn't Sam asking you to intervene. So you don't really owe Sam anything. There's less at stake. So whatever your opinion is, Sam wants to keep the peace with you as well. I have to change the battery. Sorry, I keep taking it off and on. I'm so bad at regulating my temperature. Neurodivergent things. Also, apparently some antidepressants can make you, really hot. Well, it worked. So I'm not sure whether Sam's optimism ties into his peacekeeping. He's a very optimistic guy. At the end of the scene, he points out how rad his trick was. He changes the subject. At the end of the 3-heart scene, he tells you about how they found a drummer for the band. He's always happy. He's always positive. But is this just part of his desire to keep the peace? Or is this his personality? When his dad, Kent, returns to Pelican Town, Kent has a line. "I don't know if I ever get used to being back home. The peacefulness of the town feels like a mask." That's probably just me, though. The peace feels like a mask. Is he talking about Jodie? Is he talking about Sam? He admits that he doesn't know Sam very well, so it could be Kent, misinterpreting Sam's personality. From going through Sam's dialogue in the files from the game, call him a game on Steam that is good because He's overwhelmingly positive. The only negative-ish sentiments Sam has are about his dad, but there's also this one about his mum that you unlock at 8 hearts. Sometimes I wonder if my mother's actually happy with her life. I asked her once and got the feeling she was hiding some inner pain. So we know this about Jodie. We went over how her dialogue is kind of wrapping these negative statements in chatter so that they're hidden. And Sam got this feeling that she was hiding inner pain, but he didn't ask her about it further. It seems like he didn't really know what to do about it because he's just telling you. I don't think his peace and optimism is a mask. I do think that Jodie's is. And I think that Sam's grown up only with that masked version of his mum. So he's adopted those behaviours without all of the stuff underneath. He's got the optimism. He's got that ability to just like push through. And that's just his personality now. Oh my God, there's so much cat hair on here. Jodie couches negative statements in chatter, but Sam is just chatter. If you grow up in this household where everything has to be A-okay all the time, you're not going to witness or experience negative or strong emotions. You're not going to be able to develop emotional maturity. I think Sam is mature in these like exterior ways. His job, taking care of his brother. But I feel like he's immature in that he doesn't have like an interior world. Or if he does, it's maybe underdeveloped. He doesn't think deeply about things. If he did, I think he would have more thoughts about his mum's unhappiness. As it is, it seems to puzzle him. And I think this is because of the infantilization. He's never been treated like a deep thinker. He's never been asked challenging questions. He's been babied, so he never had to develop like a curiosity, figure anything out for himself. He has these lines at 6+ hearts about his dad's return. I think my dad might be coming back next year. I guess that's kind of seen. Weird. I think my dad is coming back this spring. It's been 3 years since I've seen him. This is going to be strange. It's weird. It's strange. He's having these thoughts and emotions that confuse him. It's like he thinks he should be happy about his dad coming back, but he's not. He's got this other emotion instead, and he's not emotionally intelligent enough to understand it, so he just calls it weird and strange, because emotions have never been important to him, because keeping the peace has always been the most important thing. I don't think any of this is conscious. I think it's all under the surface. And we can kind of see that in how Sam responds if you pick the other choice in the 6 heart scene. If you say, "You're right, sir, Sam should respect private property," Sam will then say, "Fine, I just won't ride my skateboard ever again." Happy? To which Lewis replies that Sam is being difficult. He's allowed to ride his skateboard, just not cause damage. So this line from Sam comes across as quite sassy, kind of snarky, like he's pissed off. He's got this kind of annoyed face. But I think if he was truly pissed off, then you would lose friendship points here. I think he finds this situation frustrating. He's already apologised at this point, but now Lewis is like dragging it out, and he's getting you involved as well. So his apology wasn't good enough. Lewis wants something else from him. He needs to do something else in order to keep that peace. So Sam says, "Fine, I just won't ride it ever again." Does that make you happy? He's trying to make him happy. It is snarky. It is kind of like a clapback, but I don't think it's sarcastic. I think he means it, in that moment at least. If Lewis were to reply, "Yes, that makes me happy," I believe that Sam would just never ride his skateboard again. He wouldn't be thrilled about it because this is like one of the only ways he has to express himself. But without you standing up for him, I don't think he realises that he has any other choice. And whatever happens, after Lewis walks off, Sam turns to you with a smile and says, "Did you see that trick? That was rad." Once again, it's a fellow kids kind of moment. That was rad. Daniel Radcliffe. Keep it on mute. Like we said before, this is kind of him changing the subject, being optimistic. But I think it's also, this situation is resolved. The peace is kept. There are no hard feelings. So Sam can move on. He doesn't have to think about it anymore. But I wonder if he does think about it. If we stop here with our analysis of this scene, then it's like he's gone through no change. The Sam from the 2 heart scene is the same as the Sam we see here in the 6 heart scene. Still infantilized, still indecisive. There is the fact that in this scene, he's not asking you for your help, for you to kind of intervene. It's Lewis is the one that asks for your intervention. So, that does show a certain amount of more independence from him. But I think if we also look at his heart-dependent dialogue, we can kind of shed a little bit of light on this. So we have those lines we read a minute ago about how his dad's return makes him feel weird and strange. If you're at 6+ hearts with Sam, when his dad gets back, he'll say, "I have mixed feelings about my father being back. He seems strange. But I guess I haven't seen him in 3 years." So that could explain it. So here he's admitting mixed feelings. He acknowledges them as mixed, complicated, contradictory. We still see this desire for simplicity. He tries to just like explain the feelings away, almost. I haven't seen him in 3 years. That could explain it. But he says that could explain it. He still leaves room for nuance there, room for uncertainty and complexity, as opposed to a 2-heart line about his dad getting back. Well, my dad is back. Have you met him? I'm just glad he's okay. So at 2 hearts, he says, I'm just glad he's okay. No other emotion. Simple, straightforward, as opposed to the 6 hearts, where he's allowing those emotions to be confusing and uncomfortable. So why now? What's changed in your relationship with Sam, or with Sam himself? You're obviously closer when you have 6 hearts with him. You're good friends. A good amount of his 4 hearts dialogue is him asking you to hang out. So presumably within the universe of the game, you've hung out a bunch. You've talked to him. You've given him pizza. He can trust you. I think it's also to do with the heart events. It's hard to necessarily map his development to your choices because it's not actually really a choice-based game. You might have been addicted to him in the 4 heart scene, but the game doesn't really react to your choices. Sam's development is static. It remains the same. So I can't really account for, his development in the light of every choice you might have made, because that would take ages and I don't want to. But the game doesn't really do that either. So I'm just going to go off a few of them and not every possible path you might have taken. So in the 4 heart scene, if you take the blame, that's you falling on your sword for him, establishing yourself as someone he can trust. You help him keep the peace. You clearly understand his family dynamic and what he needs in that moment. Even if you tell the truth, you're someone who's telling it to him straight. You're not pandering to him or infantilizing him or trying to shield him from the world. You won't lie for him, which is trustworthy in itself. Then in the 6 heart scene, it's the same thing. Either you defend him and you show him you don't need to bow to Lewis's authority, or you tell it to him straight, like a pear cider made from 100% pears.
And he said, well, I'll give it to you straight. Like a pear cider that's made from 100% pears. I've had him given a lethal injection.
Whatever you pick, you're treating him like an adult. And I think because of that, he's realised he is an adult. He's allowed to have adult thoughts and feelings and problems. If we think about the 2 heart scene again, how we said that Sebastian is largely apathetic about the band. I haven't done Sebastian's deep dive yet, but I have the feeling that Sebastian is largely an apathetic figure in their friendship. If Lewis had asked Sebastian for his opinion in this scene, he might have just said he was staying out of it. If he was there when the egg got dropped, he might have said, Sam did it to be funny, as a way of playing a prank on Sam, getting them in trouble. It's that surface level friendship as opposed to the more deep one that you're developing with Sam. You're unlocking parts of his brain he's never had to use before. You're diversifying his portfolio of emotions. Something else is that I think that he's lonely. Sam has the most relationships out of any of the romantic partners. Mum, dad, brother, Sebastian, Abigail, Penny. Most people have 1 or 2 friends, 1 or 2 family members, but Sam is surrounded by the most people. But Sam has a line at 6 hearts. I've been friends with Sebastian for a while. He's a pretty cool guy. If you two weren't around, I wouldn't really have any friends in town. So he doesn't count Abby. He doesn't count Penny. He doesn't count his mum or his brother or his dad as a friend. Despite being this super friendly, outgoing extrovert, he spends a lot of his time alone. His best friend often doesn't want to hang out. Sam has a line when you're married to him. I mainly feel like playing guitar when I'm lonely. He plays guitar when he's lonely. And playing guitar is part of his regular schedule. So he feels lonely every day. So this new friendship with you means everything to him. It's kind of like how it was with Alex. He's stuck. He's got all these feelings that confuse him. And it just takes someone being there and being willing to listen, being kind of like a soundboard for him to be able to work through them. Okay, we got deep there. The deepest dive into the wrinkles of his brain. Let's move on to the 8 heart scene, and then we can discuss his whole platonic arc. Beep, beep, bitch, I'm outside. Getting loser for the joyride. When you're at 8 hearts with Sam, he's at your door one morning. He greets you, says, guess what? His band's playing a show tonight in Zuzu City. He tells you to meet him at the bus stop around 4 to leave for the show. You better be there. We fade to black. If you show up at the bus stop, loads of the townspeople are there, including Sam's mum and brother. You approach Sam, and he thanks you for coming. Looks around, says everything's all set. He calls everyone to get on the bus, and they all start filing in. We fade to black, and Sam tells you that he's starting to get really nervous. A little while passes, and Sam says, "You're here. Wish him luck." We arrive at a stage in an area called The Pip, littered with cans and discarded cigarettes. There's a decent crowd of 21 people, including those from the town and some strangers. Sam, Abigail and Sebastian are on stage. Sam turns to the crowd and introduces the band with a scared look, says they're called the Pelicans. He says, "Here we go," and the band starts playing. The music genre changes based on which genre you chose in the 2 Heart scene. So I picked cheerful pop music, and that's what you're hearing. But there's also electronic version, bluegrass version, and heavy version. Some notable aspects of the crowd are Vincent, Maru and Emily dancing, Leah and Elliot dancing with each other, Penny standing right at the front alongside you, and Linus over by the bin. Sam seems to be getting into it too, jumping at one point, bending his knees with the music. When they're done, Emily cheers, says, "That was great." Leah says, "Nice work, guys." Shane says he really enjoyed that bass part. There is no bass player, babes. Are you drunk? Sam thanks everyone, but says they should really be clapping for the player. Without your help, they'd never have decided what kind of music to make in the first place. Penny turns to you, asks if you're like an honorary member of the band. Sam says from the stage that you can buy one of their demo cassettes on the way out for 10G. We fade to black, and Sam says, "That went well. Thanks again for coming with us." The day after the show, you get a note in the mail from Sam. "Player, the show was a rockin' success. I wanted to say thanks again for all your help in creating this amazing band. We couldn't have done it without you. Sam." The show was a rockin' success. And he made sure to write the apostrophe and everything. What a bitchin' young man. What a cool youth. Okay, let me be pedantic here for a second. I'm not a music expert, but I know an instrument when I hear one. Shane said he liked the bass part. Up until this point, we've only got the impression that Sam plays the guitar. Not the bass guitar, the guitar. But Shane says he likes the bass part. And that's fair enough because like most of these songs sound like they have a bass guitar in them. And then in the bluegrass version, there's a banjo. Since when does he play the banjo or the bass? If we go back and listen to the band practice, that's just a guitar, right? Am I being dumb? It's hard to tell because it's obviously all like electronic instruments, so all of the instruments to me just sound like a synthesizer. I don't know, I guess Concerned Ape gave himself some creative license here. Sam plays the banjo now. I talked to my husband, the real Sam, about this. He makes music with those programs. God, I really don't know what I'm talking about. You know, the programs with like electronic instruments and you can like plug in a little USB keyboard and like how he probably made this music. I played Sam all of the songs and he said they are electronic instruments, but he came at it from the angle of like, it's probably trying to evoke real instruments. Like, this isn't supposed to be the actual music they were playing in the universe. Similar to how we said that his hair, he could actually just look like Niall Horan. It doesn't have to be like insane. And similar as to how in the game, Sam asks you to hang out and then you don't, you just walk away. Within the suspended disbelief, it's supposed to be something else. He also said that in retro games, there would sometimes be people playing real instruments, but the music you would hear from the game would be very obviously like video gamey kind of music due to the limitations of like the console. You know, they had to like squish it into like 32-bit or something. I don't know. So he said Eric Baloney might have been trying to evoke that. That's what he calls him. Eric Baloney. Apparently the heavy metal one also sounds like the original Doom soundtrack. And also he said that maybe Sam has an electric guitar and depending on like the amp you use or something, you could make it sound like a bass guitar. Maybe you could make it sound like a banjo. That's not his area of expertise. It's not mine. But his conclusion was that he liked the music and he said he knows it's the deepest dive, but I'm kind of being like that guy from The Simpsons.
In episode 2F09, when Ichi plays Scratchy's skeleton like a xylophone, he strikes the same rib twice in succession, yet he produces two clearly different tones. I mean, what are we, to believe that this is some sort of, magic xylophone or something? Boy, I really hope somebody got fired for that blunder.
And I kept being like, they all just sound like synthesizers. Where are the instruments? He's not even trying to make it sound like a guitar. And Sam was like, so. And that's fair. I have to let it go.
Why would a man whose shirt says genius at work spend all of his time watching a children's cartoon show?
I withdraw my question.
The youths and their electronic sounds. I'm not mad that they're electronic instruments, but why not use the electronic instrument of a guitar if he plays the guitar? That's all I mean. Why does he play the banjo now? You can make country music without a banjo. Taylor Swift does it. Well, she likes the banjo, to be fair. So, in this scene, Sam thanks you. A lot. A lot. He thanks you for coming when you arrive. He thanks you for your help in picking the music. He says everyone should be clapping for you. He thanks you for coming at the end. And then he sends you a note in the mail thanking you again, saying they couldn't have done it without you. Is this the Terminal? Is this Forrest Gump? Is this the Polar Express? Because there's a lot of T. Hanks. Sorry. It's excessive, right? Telling everyone they should be clapping for you was excessive. But then he sends you a note thanking you again. He's obviously very grateful. When he says they couldn't have done it without you, I think he really means that. And that's fair. I think Sam's indecision about the genre was like a real sticking point that you helped them get past. Without you there to make that decision, it would have gone unresolved. And the band might have just fallen apart. But after you choose for him, they get Abby involved. They book a show. They're moving forwards. I think the thanks represent more than just thanks for the band, though. As we said before, this friendship means a lot to him. He's got these boy friendships. He's got these casual friendships. And I think that you really make him feel seen. I think that part of the reason why he's so lonely is that he gets looked over a lot. In his family, things will always have been about his dad, or his brother, or his mum. Sam's the older child. He doesn't have as many, obvious needs as Vincent does. His mum is too busy to notice that she's infantilizing him, even though she has the best intentions. All it took for him to move forward with the band was for one person to look at him and go, pop music. But no one had done that until you came along. No one had noticed that he needed that. All through the heart events, all through your friendship, you've been treating him like you would treat any other adult, any other person. Like a person. And he likes that. It's what motivates him. It's notable that his synopsis says that he often starts projects but doesn't finish them. And here he is in this 8-heart scene, essentially having finished a project. As someone with ADHD, that's huge. Personally, I refer to it as the final boss of ADHD, is actually finishing something. It's like how it was with Elliot and his book. You have faith in him, and that's new, and it drives him forwards. The band obviously means a lot to him. His dream is to be a musician. We get hard proof of this when you're married. Raise a hand if you've ever started a band, even if it was when you were a kid. Notable lyrics include, friendship will always last, friendship will never pass, the friendship boat will always sail, making sure we never fail. I don't think I'm still friends with the people I wrote that with, which is incredibly ironic. So a band can kind of represent this idea of idealism, an idealistic dream, escapism almost. You want to make it big, you want to be a rock star, because we all just want to be a big rock star. Live in hilltop houses, driving 15 cars. But Sam's ambitions are smaller. He says his band is amazing, and the show was a rockin' success. He played to 20 people, and he's happy with that. Humble king. So it's not some idealistic concept of a better future for him. He just enjoys hanging out with his friends and making music, and we can tell it's important to him because he actually followed through with it. At the end of the day, I think that he, above all else, wants connection. He said he plays guitar when he's lonely, so he wouldn't play if he wasn't lonely. So if he had to choose between music and having some kind of relationship, he would choose the relationship. You know, if someone said, do you want to hang out? But he was planning on playing the guitar, he would just go hang out. He doesn't want to be a solo artist. He wants to be in a band with his friends. And in this scene, because of that connection he has with his friends, because of that connection he has with you, he achieves something. I think that's why it's a little bit syrupy there, with him saying to clap for you and what Penny says about you being an honorary member of the band. It's all kind of cheesy, because you barely did fuck all. You just told him what genre you like. But you kind of are an honorary member of the band. If we think about the band as just Sam getting his social needs filled, and he wants people to be clapping for you instead of him, not only because I think he doesn't need that validation of people clapping for him, he doesn't need his ego to be stroked, but also because he's so grateful to you for everything that you've done for him. I love you, Sam. Both Sams. All Sams. Even you, Sam. I'm just kidding. I don't know you, Sam. I'm sorry. Is your name Sam? Did I freak you out just then? There are so many Sams in the world. I'm assuming 90% of my audience is called Sam. Maybe that can be my name for my subscribers. My little Sams. Like Danny Gonzalez has his Gregs. So if we look at Sam's arc, in the Two Heart scene, he was so paralyzed by indecision that he couldn't move forwards with the band. He outsourced the decision making to you. In this scene, when he invites you to the show, it's not a question. He tells you, meet me at the bus stop around 4 this afternoon to leave for the show. You better be there. You better be there. Dom energy. Tell me what to do, I'll do it. Is that weird? Am I being weird? This Shane video is going to be so much worse. So, I'm just getting you ready for that. I don't know, I can't just be horny on main like this. It's not good for my reputation. So there's no indecision there. There's no, do you want to come? Oh, I don't know if I should ask you. It's a demand. When was the last time Sam demanded anything from anyone? I think it's not only that his self-assurance has grown, but I think he's very secure in your friendship. There's no universe to him in which you don't show up. You've given him no reason to doubt you. You see him, so of course you show up. And this contrasts with someone who doesn't show up. His dad. Family tangent part 2, bitch. That felt harsh. Family tangent part 2. My sweet darling. We just ordered a takeaway, so I'm going to have to run off at some point. Order confirmed. Nice. Cheesy chips. Do Americans do that? Is cheesy chips just an entire meal for you guys? Let me know. Oh, and I've got another Sam-related mug. Oh, wait, my tea's going to spill. It says F and S, and the S is for Sam. It could also stand for Shane. So I didn't know where to fit this into the video because there's no set time in Sam's Heart event that Kent comes home. It's on the first day of your second year of gameplay, so yeah, it's hard to fit it into Sam's timeline. So I'm going to put it here. Randomly. On spring 1st, Kent is on your doorstep, introduces himself, says he just got back last night, and says Jody told him about you. He says he'll see you around, and the scene ends. So if we divert away from Sam for a little while, when you're at Two Hearts with Jody, you can go into her bedroom, and you can read a note that Kent left for her during the time that he's away. Jody, since I'll be coming home soon, I want to tell you a few things. I might not be the same man you remember. I've seen some things out here that have really shaken me up. I've been having a real hard time relaxing. I don't want to scare you or make you upset. I just don't want you to be shocked when I get back. Remember, no matter how I act, you and the kids mean everything to me. I'll see you soon. Kent, like Jody, is complex. He has a hard time when he gets back to town. I don't know what to do with myself now that I'm back. I'm used to having more structure in my day. Hello, farmer. I've been gone so long. I feel like a stranger. He's seen all this awful stuff. He tells you at Six Hearts that he lost a lot of friends in battle, and now he's just home and everything is normal. No wonder the peacefulness of the town feels like a mask. And he's got this real disconnect with Sam. Are you friends with my son? You probably know him better than I do. And at Six Hearts, he'll tell you. Sam has really grown up since I left. He's a man now. I wish I could have been there for him. And that disconnect is there on Sam's part as well, because he has that line that we read before. I have mixed feelings about my father being back. He seems strange, but I guess I haven't seen him in 3 years, so that could explain it. And Sam will also say, sometimes I can hear my dad pacing down the hallway at night, but he won't tell us what's troubling him. Even Vincent has picked up on it. Dad seems weird since he came back. I wonder what happened to him. He doesn't play with me anymore. So there's all this uncertainty, all these buried emotions. Sam and Vincent say Kent seems strange and weird. He won't tell either of them what's troubling him, but they both want to know. I'm kind of overwhelmed by this subject, if I'm being honest. I am the last person in the world to be qualified to talk about PTSD from war and how it affects your relationship with your kids. I have 2 cats, and I have never been in a fight. So we won't dive super deep into this. Maybe that's a topic for another time. But we saw earlier with that study that parental combat deployment has a cumulative effect on children that remains even after the deployed parent returns home, and that is predicted by psychological distress of both the active duty and at-home civilian parent. So I think Kent is trying to keep his psychological distress to a minimum, kind of how Jodie does. They both just kind of push things down, hoping that if they maintain a normal enough surface, that it won't affect the kids. But we've seen by now that that's not true. Kids are smart. Kids pick up on things. Sam knows his mum is unhappy, but he doesn't know why. The kids both see that there's something wrong with Kent, but they don't know what it is. So Kent does have PTSD. He has a 3-heart event where he reacts badly to the sound of popcorn in the microwave. He doesn't sleep well. He paces up and down the hallway. He mentions during the flower dance that he doesn't like the open field, and Jodie says during the egg festival that Kent always seems a little antsy during big gatherings like this. Notable word there is seems, so he hasn't opened up to her about this. So even if you get Sam's 8-heart cutscene in year 2 or later when Kent is back, he doesn't go to the concert. And we can see that this makes sense. Jodie says that he doesn't like big gatherings. It would be loud. It would probably be too much for him. But does Sam know that? Did Kent explain to Sam why he couldn't go to the show? With what we've seen of their relationship? Probably not. So I think that this is another reason why your relationship is so meaningful to Sam. The consistency. The honesty. Both of his parents try to spare him a certain type of pain, but they do it through a lack of emotional openness. They try to protect him, but they do it too well, to the point where there's a wall between them. But you don't have that. He tells you to come to the show, and you do. He communicates a need, and you fill it, instead of you, projecting what you think is best for him, like his parents do. Okay. Really quick before I put them away. His parents are so hot. Look at Kent. He's so fit. And we said last video that Vincent is like a little Riz master. What is it in these jeans? Okay, that was intense. My golden-haired bestie. I love him. I don't know what it is. I just have such a fondness for him. I think it's the attitude, the friendliness, the optimism. It's kind of infectious. It's charming. If we compare him to Sebastian, again, Sebastian has not been deep dove, so sorry if I'm a bit off. He's very sullen. He's kind of a bummer. He has become so numb. And that's probably for mental health reasons, but yeah, we'll get into that. But Sam categorically has a much harder life. Sebastian seems hard. It's not like it's a competition. But if it was, Sam would win. Not a competition, but I win it. He's got so much shit going on. And he's just this sweet little boy. This sweet little puppy. He's just a little puppy. Where does he get that energy from? I wish I had that kind of ADHD. I have the other kind. Opposites attract. So, I think I'm going to date him. I'm going to give him a little bouquet. So Sam has a few lines of dating dialogue, mostly about his biases. The older I get, the more attached I feel to the valley. Although, I could be biased. For a certain reason. So, how are you doing today? I think I've grown to like the country more than the city. Although I could be biased. For a certain reason. We love a man who admits his biases. Good academic practice. Cite your sources. But he also has another line of dating dialogue, and on the wiki, it displays it as, player, I just wanted to say, you look nice today. But from looking at the text files, that's actually only what he says if you're a girl. If you're a boy, this line changes to, hey buddy, you look like you're full of energy today. What the fuck? Literally just guys being pals while actively dating? I don't know if this changed in 1.6. This is all 1.5 so that, Switch players don't get spoiled, but Eric, what the fuck? Why is that low-key homophobic? He literally calls you buddy while you're actively dating, but only if you're a guy. But then, are you actively dating? Narrative design tangent. Sam is a weird case of that bouquet inconsistency I referenced all the way back in the Alex video. So I'll recap here, because even if you have seen that video, that was a lifetime ago. It feels like years ago. Basically, the bouquet is described by Pierre to show someone that you're romantically interested. It unlocks those last 2 hearts with the character, and once you've given a bouquet, that is your boyfriend or girlfriend. Canonically, you are dating, but in some of the 10-heart events, like Alex's, the character acts like you, the player, have given no indication of romantic interest at all. Alex bashfully confesses his gay love for you and asks if you feel the same way. And it's babe, I literally gave you an explicit indicator of my romantic interest. Please respond. But then some scenes don't do this. Like Maru's 10-heart scene, one of the dialogue options is your dad okay with us now? There's an us. There's a canonical us. So in that scene, you're an us. You're a couple. It frustrates me so much. Way back in the Alex video, I think I said we'll see if a pattern emerges as we go through all the characters. But, I'm on character number 10 now, and there isn't one. It's completely inconsistent from character to character. Some of them in the 10 heart scenes confess their feelings, and then you're assumed to feel the same way because you just kiss. Some of them confess their feelings and you get the option to reject them or not. Some of them, there are no feelings confessed. You just are a couple. Elliot kissed you, and then afterwards you got the option to reject him. What does the bouquet mean? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. So, what I'm trying to say is that within the inconsistent logic of the bouquet, just because you need 10 hearts with Sam for him to say this line, doesn't mean he's saying it as if you're dating. His 10 heart scene is one of the scenes with a feeling confession, as if you're not dating. So if we want to make excuses for this low-key problematic line, then we could say, well, they're not dating. It's not that he's calling his girlfriend pretty and his boyfriend energetic. It's just regular gendered dialogue, It's just sexist. It's not homophobic. I can excuse sexism, but I draw the line at homophobia. I'm just kidding. We could say that, but I don't really want to. This makes me feel weird. I don't like it, as you can probably tell. I could write a whole thing about how Sam might have internalized homophobia or something, or why he might not want to express these gay feelings or whatever. Maybe it's to do with Kent. Maybe it's to do with Vincent, as if it was a nuanced and deliberate character choice. But I don't want to, because I don't think it is. I'm tired. I'm tired of this. I'm just going to call this a weird choice that I don't like and leave it there. Fiona go 1 video without complaining about the game challenge. She failed. Not clickbait. Okay, let's do 10 hearts. When you're at 10 hearts with Sam, he sends you a note in the mail telling you to meet him in front of his house tonight after dark. When you get into town, he's waiting for you outside his house. He greets you, says he wanted to talk to you in private. He looks around and shivers, says, "It's kind of cold. Let's sneak into my room." You walk towards his bedroom and we fade to black. Then we're inside his room. He looks sheepish, then says, "I know I've been talking about nothing but the band for a while now, but I don't want you to think that's all I'm interested in." Then he looks nervous, stumbles on his words, before saying he's really happy that you've grown so close. He thinks for a second, then blushes, asks, "Do you think of him as just a friend?" Jody approaches the door before you can answer. Sam jumps, and Jody says she's coming in. Sam tells you to hide in the bed, and the player quickly gets into his bed as Jody enters. She says, "What's wrong, honey? Were you doing something bad?" She thought she heard some weird sounds coming from his room. Sam says he was just doing push-ups, so he can beat his dad at arm wrestling. Jody giggles, says that explains why Sam's all red and sweaty. She wishes him luck and says she'll see him in the morning. Sam says goodnight and Jody leaves, leaving the door open where it was previously closed. Sam turns to you with relief, says, "That was close." You turn to him and he says your name, and you get a choice. Get out of the bed, stay put. I stayed in the bed. He moves closer, then gets in with you, and you kiss. He says he always knew there was something special between you. We fade to black. After a little while, Sam says he's going to be thinking about this night for a long time. Okay, first of all, while I was writing that part, literally just watching the scene and writing down the recap of it to read, I was literally blushing. Look, here's photo proof. I'll put it on the screen. Blushing. At Sam's 10 heart event. What is wrong with me? I love him. Takeaway time. Okay, I've eaten a large cheesy chips, and I'm back to talk about Sam. So here is the picture of me blushing at his 10 heart event. Why? Why? I do love him. I think he and Alex are tied in second place for my heart. I'm such a heterosexual Stardew player. I think the blush is at least partly because this is quite an intimate scene, right? Most 10 hearts you get a quick kiss. But in this 10 heart scene, you're literally making out in bed together. It's enough to make a girl blush. Okay, analysis hat, Fiona. Take off my hat about the Sam fanfiction I've been reading. Put my analysis hat back on. It wasn't even a fanfiction about Sam. It was a Sebastian and Alex fanfiction. But Sam was just around, being hot. Boys. So, the 10 house scene. He sneaks you in through his window so his mum doesn't see. She comes to check on him. She leaves the door open. It's so infantilized. It's crazy. He's at least 18. I think a lot of parents have rules about, having people over in a romantic sense. I don't think my mum let me have someone stay the night until I was 19. But she just comes in his room. Privacy is a real theme here. Sam says he wants to talk to you in private. Jodie enters without knocking. She leaves the door open when she leaves. When she comes inside, she says, "What's wrong, honey? Were you doing something bad?" They say I did something bad. Why does it feel so good? Wow, wow. What does that mean? Were you doing something bad? What is bad in this situation? What is bad to an adult? Making a mess? Or does she mean, bad? But then that would be a weird thing to say to your son. She said that she heard weird noises coming from his room. Not to be crass. Well, to be a little crass. But how does he have a wank without his mum walking in? She didn't knock. That must be so stressful. And Jodie is so oblivious. Hearing weird noises coming from your son's room late at night. Jodie, don't go in there, Jodie. He's a teenage boy, Jodie. Don't go in there. I feel like that's what she means when she says bad. What else could she mean? Drugs? Satanism? Maybe she doesn't know what she means. She does say, "What's wrong?" which isn't the kind of thing you would say to someone if you thought that they were deliberately doing something bad. I think she just wants to know everything that's going on in his life. She hears a weird noise. She just lets herself in. She's confused at finding him all red and sweaty. "What's wrong? Did you do something bad? I heard a weird noise. What's the situation? Please resolve this query that I have." She still sees him as a child, and children don't have locks on their doors, in case they get stuck, in case they need help. She feels entitled to his space and his life, in the same way that she did when she was changing his nappies. Like how she was just kind of lingering in the foreheart scene, ready to swoop in. But Sam tells you to hide, as opposed to the foreheart scene where he bows to the infantilization, takes on that peacekeeping role. Here, he lies. He puts his own desires above his mum's. He protects his right to privacy. He keeps a secret. And he doesn't ask you what to do like he did in the foreheart scene. There's no indecision there. He's fast. He springs into action. He takes control. If we look at what he says to you here, I know I've been talking about nothing but the band for a while now, but I don't want you to think that's all I'm interested in. So of course he's saying he's interested in you. Romantic styles. But he's also saying, there's more to me. I'm not just the band guy. I have other interests. And that's so good. Because we said, people don't really see him as a person. He's never been treated like a person with depth. So he didn't really have to develop that depth. And now here he is directly telling you, I have depth. He recognizes that. He shares it. He insists it. It insists upon itself. His privacy and his depth kind of go hand in hand. I think it's about that internal life. He's been kind of living on the surface level, saying what he thinks out loud, no secrets, everything out in the open. But as that internal world builds, he has things that he wants to keep to himself, which is healthy. That's how you grow. You need privacy to be able to explore yourself. And now he has that curiosity. I think our boy has become a man in this scene. And not just because he gets some. Honestly, there's a discussion to be had there. Emily's 10 heart scene is at night and you wake up the next morning. Penny's 10 heart scene is at night and she says she'll remember the night for a long time. Same as Sam. In my head for those scenes, you canonically smashed. Canon event. I guess there isn't a discussion to be had actually. I just told you my opinion. So in this scene, if you don't remain in the bed, if you get out of the bed, Sam then goes on to say, earlier, I was trying to say that I really like you, player. I think we could really have something special together. Know what I mean? Alright, I said it. Then you get a choice. Move closer to Sam. Head for the window. If you move closer to him, you kiss. And he says he's going to be thinking about it for a long time. And you fade to black. If you head for the window, Sam says, I see. I'm sorry. I had the wrong idea. I'll see you around. My heart. My boy. In the last video with Penny, I was like, get her to 10 hearts and then reject her. Make her cry. And now I'm like, don't you fucking hurt him. I need to do some self-reflection on that. I think he handles it pretty well, all things considered. He apologizes. He accepts it. He says he'll see you around. There's this thing with ADHD called rejection-sensitive dysphoria. It's not entirely comorbid, but it's very heavily linked. From WebMD. Research on who develops RSD and how it's linked with ADHD is still unclear. That's because it's hard to measure rejection. But Eugene Arnold, MD, a psychiatrist and behavioral health specialist at Ohio State University, believes people with ADHD are more likely to show symptoms of RSD due to differences in brain structure. For people with ADHD, the frontal lobe of the brain, which controls your ability to pay attention, language, social skills, impulse controls, judgment, and problem solving, works slightly differently. This might cause you to miss or not pay attention to certain social cues or details, or not collaborate well within a team. You might lack insight into how this might affect others around you, and interpret unclear conversations as a form of rejection, being teased, or as criticism. This could trigger overwhelming feelings of confusion, failure, betrayal, pain, and sadness. And you might find it difficult to regulate your emotions and control them as quickly as others without ADHD might. Mental health conditions and mood disorders could also be linked with RSD, but experts need to conduct more studies on RSD to better understand it. As someone with depression and ADHD, when I learned about this as a concept, my entire life made sense. Anyway, this could explain his snarky little comment in the 6-heart scene. Fine, I guess I'll just never skateboard ever again. Like, it's not just him, like, being shitty. It's this really strong emotional reaction. If this happened to me in this scene, if I confessed that I liked someone and then they just walked off towards the window, I think I would react like Penny. I would burst into tears immediately. I would think about it every single night for the rest of my life before I went to sleep. But Sam in this scene is calm. He handles it well. Don't get me wrong. There is every possibility that you climb out of that window and the second that you're gone, he bursts into tears. Sometimes you can kind of hold it back for a second. But I think it shows what we've been saying about his emotions, about his parents pushing things down to seem stable. He pushes it down here. He's able to do what they do, to present this calm front, no matter what's going on inside. That sucks. Feel your feelings, Sam. There's such a complexity to him, you know? Growing up feeling like you have to repress your emotions, while also being neurodivergent and having stronger emotions, and less ability to regulate your emotions, while also struggling to fit in and being desperate to fit in. Bestie same. What else is there to say about our golden boy? I love him. I'm gonna lock this shit down. In this playthrough, I actually ran into his room and got into his bed and proposed to him, which is a nice parallel to the 10-heart scene. His engaged dialogue is, "I'm going to be really happy as your husband, player. I'm excited. I never dreamed this would happen. I'm so lucky. I can't wait till the wedding." Dude, he has one of the best blushing faces. Look at those eyes. Oh, look at those eyes. Obviously, we know who has the best blushing face. We all know. But if I look at that, I will have no choice but to giggle and kick my feet, okay? So we'll keep that in the cupboard for now. Shall I do it, actually? It's almost 9 o'clock. I deserve a treat.
This is my boy!
Even just looking at him in the viewfinder, it's getting me. Okay, I'm an adult woman. So there's a real certainty to his words. There's no, I think I'm going to be happy as your husband. It's all statements of facts. So that indecision is gone completely, at least when it comes to your relationship. He doesn't and ah about it. You know, like what we said way back when about everything everywhere all at once. You see all the different things you could do with your life. You'd think he'd be doing that here. Even I did that when I was engaged. I couldn't help it. It's a big commitment to be like, this one, forever. Of course divorce exists, but you don't get married of the sentiment of we could just get divorced. Well, maybe you do, I don't know. But he's got this like simple certainty. There's a lack of complexity there again with his feelings, but I don't feel like it's because there's something there that's being repressed or uninvestigated. I think it's just a simple certainty. He loves you. He's excited. He can't wait till the wedding. Me neither, babe. So, for the second time this year, I'm gonna marry Sam. Before I forget, someone told me to mention about his height, so I don't think I've looked at this during these videos. Brief sidebar, the heights. Editing Fiona. Bring up flower dance. Crop. Enhance. Comparison vector. Okay, thank you, editing Fiona. So if we go by hair, we can see that Sam is the tallest guy. But if we go by waistbands, we can see that he's actually the same height as Harvey and Alex. And look, you guys. You guys. Okay. Everyone calls Shane a short king. Right? I'm not denying that. But he's the same height as Elliot. And as your precious Sebastian. But he's got so much emo fucking hair that you can't tell. That's some copium right there. He's compensating. Okay, so Sam is a big lad. When you're married and you kiss him, look at this. He bends down. He bends his little knees. Isn't that cute? It is kind of unrealistic though, because my husband is 6'3". Yeah, I know. And he doesn't bend his knees to kiss me. He just like leans down. Imagine someone realistically just like popping a little squat to kiss you. Ultimate ick. I'm not making fun of it. I think it's very cute. I do like it. It's just kind of a funny visual image. So when you're married, Sam's spouse room has basically everything from his regular room, except the drum kit and a few other little things. He's got his keyboard, his guitar, his computer, a bookshelf. The wallpaper is similar, but not identical, which is interesting. He has his tastes. Maybe they've changed a little, but they're still fundamentally the same. Kind of like Sam. Fucking analysing the wallpaper. What's that term? Corn plating. I'm corn plating the wallpaper. His outside area is so cute. It's this little half pipe, and he just stands in the middle of it trying to do a trick. If you talk to him, he says, I'm never going to land this trick. Oh, babe, don't give up. I believe in you. Although he is never going to land the trick because that's the dialogue he will have for all eternity, So he keeps those hobbies that might have been seen as more childish. The skateboard, the band, which, as we said, can be seen as like childhood ambition. But on the wiki, it says he has a line. I've given up on being a musician. I'm a family man now. So I need to paint a little bit of a broader picture here. When you're married, Sam quits his job, whether that's working at JojaMart or the museum. Ugh, I'll tell you something I don't miss about my old life. Working at JojaMart. Before you have kids, he just kind of hangs out. On Mondays and Fridays, he visits his family, and on Fridays, he still goes to the saloon with his friends. But other than that, he doesn't leave the farm. He puts a big emphasis on relaxing. Might be a good day to sit back and jam on the guitar. Hey, you can relax too if you want. Hey, how was your day? I just laid around and read comics most of the day. It was great. It was a pretty low-key day for me. Colas, frozen pizza, a few hours noodling around on the guitar. I feel relaxed. My day? Oh, I can hardly remember. I didn't really do anything of note. Just relaxed and had a good time. So he's very chill. He's my trophy husband. We love that for him. But he does come across as kind of lazy. Hey, I made you some instant pancakes. Enjoy. What? I never learned to cook. Mum always did that. Do you have big plans for the day? Oh, not me. I usually decide what to do a few moments beforehand. Maybe I'll help out on the farm some other day. I feel lazy today. You're not mad? Hey, sorry I didn't make the bed. You know I'm sloppy. That's why you like me, right? And look, if you're looking for someone to condemn him for this, you are watching the wrong channel. I have endless empathy for this shit because I'm so fucking messy and bad at chores. I moved house like 4 months ago and I still have a huge moving box in my room and it's just filled with dirty laundry. Everyone struggles with chores to some extent, but when you're neurodivergent, it's so much harder because there's the whole executive dysfunction thing. Plus, Sam never had to do chores, so how would he have learned? If we compare this to Haley hated chores. She didn't grow up without discipline. Emily was always trying to enforce it on her. So when she moves in with you, she knows how to do it. She discovers she actually kind of likes it. Sam doesn't know how. He could learn, sure, but the game can only include so much. I think it makes total sense that he moves in with you and he doesn't just suddenly know how to cook and clean. He must know how to make the bed though, right? It's not that hard. So why doesn't he do that? But I have to get this off my chest, right? I don't understand why people make the bed. I never have. I have never in my whole life done that on a regular basis, and nothing bad happened. My husband and I have recently started to make the bed, but that's only because the cats sleep on the bed, and if we make the bed, then it's easier for us to then get in the bed around them. And I get that it looks nice if you make the bed. It can kind of like put your brain into gear for the day. But to act like it's a necessary chore, to describe Sam not making the bed as like sloppy, I find that fundamentally confusing. I don't get it. I'm a bed-making truther. They've been lying to you your whole life. Someone explain it to me if I'm missing something. But yeah, my bed hasn't like caught fire. But just because he doesn't know how to do certain things, that doesn't fully explain his like bumming around. He doesn't help you on the farm. He quits his job, but he doesn't replace it with anything else. He relaxes. We'll get into this more with his 14 Heart event, but I want to relate it to his character and everything that we've learned about him. So I think that what happens with Sam is, he moves in with you. He doesn't have to work because you make enough money. His mum isn't there to enforce any boundaries or discipline. So he ends up just kind of floating, just chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool. He could learn how to cook, learn how to do anything. He could do anything he wanted in the entire world because he doesn't have to work. He could learn to crochet. It's very rewarding. But that would require making his own schedule, being his own discipline. And that's hard. That's so hard. Especially since it's his first time. I'm 27 and I struggle with discipline around making these videos. When do I start work? When do I stop work? What counts as work? With ADHD, it's like you always feel like you hate boundaries and structure and discipline. But when you lose all of that, for me at least, you kind of crave it. Someone tell me what to do. Especially with the issues he's had with indecision. He's more decisive now, but what do you do when your choices are, okay, do literally anything? I think he's happy just chilling out for a while, but we will see this thread develop more in the 14 Heart event. But now I want to talk about when you have kids with Sam. He is like unrecognizable. Listen to this. I'll change first child's diaper. Don't worry about it. You've got enough on your plate. Don't worry. I'll feed first child today. You can just focus on running the farm. I woke up early, fed the kids, and changed their diapers. We're all set. You can just focus on raking in that sweet money. I'm just kidding. I didn't marry you for the money. Thanks, honey. He's helping. He's so helpful. He's doing things. He's changing diapers. Of course, that's not something that necessarily should be celebrated. That should be the norm that, the dad does that stuff. I'm not trying to be like, good job, Sam. You did the basic things for your child. But we can see that his laziness kind of goes away. He's active. He's taking care of things. He really likes being a dad. It's weird, but I really like being a father. I never thought I'd become such a family man, but I'm really satisfied with what we've built here. Life is going great. I love it. He's got this sense of purpose now. He's always been the one that's dependent on other people, but now he's got these little people dependent on him, and it just like fuels him and gives him this sense of fulfillment. I think it as well links with that theme of him being like his own person, an individual. He made the choice to marry you, to have kids with you. Those are his kids from his decisions, from his life. And so he feels this sense of responsibility that he's probably never felt before. Which brings us back to this line. I've given up on being a musician. I'm a family man now. So he doesn't do band practice with Sam and Abby anymore. They don't have any more gigs. He's given up. He's a family man now. The Pelicans have disbanded. And with this quote, we can see this kind of sense of conflict between those two things. I've given up X. Now I'm Y. I've given up this thing that represented my hope for change because I have the change that I wanted. But it's also like I've given up this thing that represented my ambition, the project I cared about enough to see it to some sort of completion, and I've replaced it with being a family man. So we talked about self-perception before. He does seem to be kind of self-aware. He says that he's sloppy. He admits he doesn't know how to cook. He's aware to an extent about all these things he lacks, these immaturities to him. I think giving up on being a musician is kind of an overcompensation. If he sees that as like a childhood dream, giving that up and being like capital S serious family man is what he sees as growing up and being mature. He could also be mirroring his mum's behaviour in his behaviour as a father. She talks about how she doesn't have time for herself, so he doesn't allow himself time for himself because he thinks that's how it should be done. God, that just occurred to me actually. Jodie and Ken are grandparents now. Hottest grandparents in history. Grilfs. Like I said, we're going to talk about this more in relation to the 14 Heart event, but I'll go over some other honourable mentions about being married to Sam before we get there. First, I have to talk about some of his really adorable dialogue. Baby, talk to me. I'm always interested to hear about your day. Baby, I was just going to write you a song on the guitar, but now you're here and I feel relaxed. I mainly feel like playing guitar when I'm lonely. Do you ever think of that night we snuck into my room? I do. Often. Baby. B-A-B-Y, baby. I fucking love him. I just love him. There's no other comment. That's it. He also tries to get out of the flower dance. Oh, tomorrow's the flower dance, isn't it? I thought I could get out of that now we're married. Whatever. I guess it's funny in a weird way. Aw, I gotta put on that doggy suit again. I thought now that we're married. Well, alright. Deep dive on the flower dance when? In the future for sure, because what the fuck? I don't blame him for wanting to get out of it. I hate that fucking flower dance song. It lives in my head rent-free. Dee, 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 pa, pa, pa. Dee. And finally, let's talk about his relationship with his family now that he's moved out. He goes to visit them twice a week, and he says, seeing family is nice, but it's also kind of depressing in a weird way. Our lives are totally separate now, and everything feels more formal than it used to. Which is very relatable to anyone who's moved out of home. I mean, I don't find it personally depressing when I see my family, but things are just different, When you live together, you're so close, literally everything that's going on with each other. It's such a different dynamic. And that changes when you move out. It's not a bad thing. But I guess it is kind of depressing in a weird way. And he has a couple of lines about Vincent. I wonder if Mum will let Vincent enter the haunted maze this year. Probably not. Poor kid. He's going to have to grow up someday. I hope Vincent's not too lonely now that I'm gone. I kind of felt responsible for the little guy. But life's all about change, right? Kids need to learn that, eventually. Or else adulthood will destroy them. What are the implications of that line? Has adulthood destroyed him? Adulthood destroyed me. All I wrote in my script about that was, I'm tired. So let me think about it, I guess. Thanks, Past Fiona. I'm tired too. So with that second line, he's kind of like talking himself out of it, talking himself down. We can see his thought process. He starts off by worrying about Vincent, hopes that he's not too lonely. Then he acknowledges that he felt responsible for him, which I don't think he's ever acknowledged before. Then it's like he's trying to make himself feel better about it, saying life's about change. And Vincent has to learn that eventually, or adulthood will destroy him. I guess, yeah, so that's Sam kind of actively pushing against the idea of keeping Vincent in this, like, bubble. It's the same question he was struggling with in the 3 Heart scene. Do I be honest with him, or do I keep his, like, childhood innocence? But Sam's saying here, like, I couldn't have just stayed living at home forever for the sake of Vincent. I needed to go. I needed to change. It would have been wrong to not let Vincent learn that lesson. And so to keep him in any kind of bubble would make it so that adulthood destroyed him. So I feel like he is kind of saying that adulthood destroyed him. What's he referring to here? I don't know. I'm not quite sure what he's referring to here. Because thinking about it, I don't think there's any evidence of Sam, being destroyed by adulthood. Unless he means about how he doesn't know how to do chores. But he never really says anything too down about that. So now I worry that he feels like he's destroyed by adulthood, but he's kind of burying that down a little bit like his parents do. Are you keeping things from me? I don't know. Maybe I'll add something in from editing Fiona, thinking about that more, but it just makes me kind of sad. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts, editing Fiona? Over to you. Editing Fiona here. I'm now realising with this video how often I tend to pass work on to future versions of myself. Should probably stop doing that. Okay, first of all, I have new thoughts on that first line of dialogue. I wonder if Mum will let Vincent enter the haunted maze this year. Probably not. Poor kid. He's going to have to grow up someday. And I feel like my first reading of this was as if Vincent doesn't want to grow up. He's going to have to grow up someday. He can't just keep being a kid forever. But I feel like this is targeted towards Jodie, because Jodie's the one that's not letting Vincent enter the haunted maze. So he's saying like poor kid, as if being like poor Vincent, he's being infantilized. So he knows. He kind of probably knew the whole time, or had some level of awareness about it. But yeah, within this line, he's kind of like actively pitying Vincent. He's like, oh, poor kid. He's going to have to grow up someday. Jodie's going to have to let him grow up someday. So I think with that awareness, we can then return to the quote at hand. I hope Vincent's not too lonely now that I'm gone. I kind of felt responsible for the little guy. But life's all about change, right? Kids need to learn that eventually, or else adulthood will destroy them. So if we take this quote and we kind of apply it to Sam, I got a bit confused. I was saying, how is he not saying that adulthood destroyed him? How could you interpret this in any other way? Oh, Kitty. Hey, buddy. But I feel like it's notable how it's about change specifically. He's saying that kids need to learn that life is about change. And I think that change in Sam's life is something that he hasn't, been particularly lacking with. Like, he has been exposed to a lot of change, like his dad kept leaving and coming back. So maybe he's saying he didn't learn that life was about change until the second year when his dad gets back. Like, he's got those lines saying that he's a little bit apprehensive about his dad coming home. I think it's entirely possible that he ended up kind of wishing that his dad wouldn't come home. Was it saying the synopsis? Sam is a little stressed about the impending return of his father. Yeah, so I think it's entirely possible that he, secretly a little bit didn't really want his dad to come home because it would just be change. But then he ended up learning the lesson that life is about change because his dad came back. So I guess in that way, it's not that adulthood has destroyed him. It also kind of shows that his opinion has changed since the 3 Heart scene. Because when you say, oh, you did the right thing, kids should be innocent, he replies and says, oh, I agree with you, kids should play while they have the chance. But now he's kind of on the other side saying kids need to learn those hard lessons eventually. I don't know. I think if we combine this with what we said about the last quote, he's kind of overall thinking about his life now that he's out from living with Jodie, and he's thinking about Vincent. He's thinking about the effect that she's still having on him. And he's going oh, he's going to have to change eventually. Jodie's going to have to let him grow up eventually. Weirdly, it seems like with this, he's saying that Jodie's the one who doesn't tolerate change very well. Is he saying adulthood has destroyed his mum? I mean, it kind of did, low-key, but I don't know. It does feel like a certain amount of cope as well. With the ... right? Life's all about change, right? Because he's saying, oh, I hope Vincent's not lonely now that I'm gone. I felt responsible for him. That would lead to him feeling guilty about it. Because he has other lines about how Vincent's called him and said he misses him. Or how he doesn't play with him anymore. I don't want to play with you anymore. So then it's a certain amount of cope to be but life's all about change, right? Kids need to learn that. Saying it was actually a good thing for him that I left him. I don't know. I don't think there's a clear through line. I don't think we can map all of this down. But that's what I'm saying about Sam. He's complex. I can't look at the camera, I keep looking at the screen. Yeah, I think he's kind of working through these feelings. I don't think he's reached like a conclusion. I don't think he's gotten to the point where he's like worked through all of his stuff and he can like look back on it, which arguably you should do before you have kids, but we're going to give him a pass for that because you kind of made him. Yeah, I think he's just processing like living away from home, processing having his own kids, his own take on these topics. But, you know, I'm glad that he's like developed these thoughts somewhat. His little gears are turning for him in his little brain. In his little brain. Okay, I think that covers it. Back to you, Pass Fiona. Also, I hate you. Thanks, editing Fiona. What you said was so smart and correct, I'm assuming. Okay, let's do his 14 heart event. So Sam's 14 heart event has 4 parts. 4? Okay, make me work for it. They play out over the course of like 10 days in the game. Part 1. Sam's in his spouse room, looking at his guitar. He looks stressed, and you approach, questioning. He says, "Hey, you look like you've been working hard out there." He looks back at his guitar, thinks, says, he really likes living here with you. He loves it, but he feels like he's gotten really lazy, just bumming around aimlessly all day. The player responds with a heart, and Sam says, he knows you don't mind. You make enough money on the farm so he doesn't need to work, and he really appreciates that. But he wants to feel like he's contributing to something. He looks back at his guitar and says he thinks he's going to try and find some work, something to do with music. That's always been what he loves the most. Besides you, of course. He says he'll let you know how it goes. The player seems pleased, and we fade to black. Part 2. Sam's holding a letter, reading it. He jumps, says, "Listen to this," then reads the letter. "Dear Sam, we are pleased to offer you a position as junior composer at Zuzu Broadcasting Group, TV division." He's pleased, says, "Music for a TV show sounds cool." He reads some more and says, "Oh, hold on. It's a TV show for little kids. The Happy Junimo Show." He's displeased, says it's not exactly what he had in mind. He turns to you, and you get a choice. Just think of this as a stepping stone in your career. Just think of how happy you'll make the children. I'm sorry. I said to think of it as a stepping stone, and he says, yeah, that's one way to look at it. He looks at his guitar, says he'd better start thinking like a kid. You get another choice. That should be easy for you. You could ask your little brother for help. I said to ask his brother, and he says that's not a bad idea. He could play him the songs and see if he likes them. He thanks you for the advice, and we fade to black. Part 3. Sam tells you he's making progress on the song. Check it out. He produces an acoustic guitar and plays you a rough version of it. When it's finished, he says it's kind of bare bones, but it'll come together when he adds in all the different instruments. You'll see. The player looks happy. Sam says he's not too upset about this kids show idea anymore. You gotta start somewhere, right? And hey, maybe he'll be a big hit in the children's concert circuit. We fade to black. Part 4. In the final part, you're in the spouse room with Sam. Vincent and Jazz are also there, as well as the TV. Vincent says he's really excited, and Sam says he's going to put the song on right away. He tells the kids to listen really close so they can tell him if they like it afterwards. Okay? Vincent responds, okay. Sam turns on the TV, and we get the full song, the Happy Junimo Show theme. It plays over the title sequence of the show. Vincent starts dancing to the song, and after a little while, so does Jazz. Towards the end, they both start jumping up and down. As soon as the song is over, Jazz says she loves it, and Vincent says, me too. Sam's happy, but surprised, says he didn't expect such an overwhelming response. That's great. This is really fun. He walks over to you and thanks you for all your support with this. He kind of likes making children's music. It's not very glamorous, but he's making the kids happy, and that's important. The player reacts with a heart, and Sam says he wanted to give you this. It's a boombox with the song on it, so you can listen to it whenever you want. Sam's boombox gets added to your inventory, and we fade to black. That fucking boombox never worked for me. I don't know why, I just couldn't ever get it to play the song. Okay, so let's go back to part 1, where he says he wants to feel like he's contributing to something. It's a continuation of what we were saying about how he's lacking structure. He's just kind of bumming around. And he knows that. He acknowledges that here. He says he appreciates you, appreciates that he doesn't have to work, but he wants to work. He's seeking fulfillment, activity. But now instead of Jojamart, he gets to go after something he loves. We said that he might have started working at Jojamart out of like a sense of duty, to be like the man of the house, the provider, to be like bringing something in. So it's good that he doesn't have that sense of duty anymore. He's got the privilege to be able to go after a job he loves instead of just one that brings some money in, and he's taking advantage of that privilege. He's making a decision. Good job, honey. It goes to show that he's not really lazy. None of us are really lazy. Nobody in the world wants to just bum around every day for the entire rest of their life. We're all seeking some kind of fulfillment, some kind of purpose. You just need that space to like breathe and figure out how to get there. Then we get to part 2, where he gets a job offer, only to find out that it's a TV show for little kids. His disappointment is immeasurable, and his day is ruined. He's explicitly disappointed because it's a show for kids. Depending on your choice, he also says that it's not exactly a dream job. We could get into how it's unrealistic for him to expect to just land a dream job, but this whole situation is quite unrealistic in the first place. He gets a job offer via letter in the post, so I'm not going to bother with that. Suspend our disbelief. This is all very much tying back to that theme of maturity that we've had running through Sam's whole storyline. He's just gotten married. He might have kids at this point. He's a man, but he's not got experience with that. He's always been treated like a kid, so he's got these kind of warped ideas of what a grown-up is. He probably thinks that grown-ups work on grown-up music for grown-up shows, like Law and Order or something. It's like he's just shed that childish part of his personality, and he doesn't want to just like have to put it back on, kind of like backslide. But he's not down for long. He says he's going to start thinking like a kid. So despite all these feelings, he's throwing himself into it anyway. Again, depending on your choices, Sam will say, I'll make the best of it, like I always do. So real. He's such a little optimist. He's bummed for like 3 seconds before being like, oh well, let me try as hard as I can anyway. Nevertheless, she persisted. In part 3, we see him getting into it. He's gotten stuck into the project. Again, we see his optimism. I think that music just brings him joy. He's obviously very skilled. This is something I don't think I've brought up yet because we haven't had a clear example of him playing the guitar until now. There was the whole banjo fiasco, which kind of threw me off, but he is really good at it. It's impressive. And I think that the final product of the event, the show theme, is really impressive as well. He's not dumb. He can play multiple instruments and write music. I don't really know where I'm going with that point. I guess I just wanted to mention it. Just because his character isn't like talking about books or building flying robots doesn't mean that he's not skilled in his own way. I like the confidence that he shows in himself in this scene. It's very cool. When I add in all the different instruments, it'll come together. You'll see. You could interpret that as kind of insecure, like, you'll see. You'll all see. But I just see it as like, yeah, like a cool, calm confidence. The 3 C's. It'll work out. He's got the vision. Sam's on it. And then in the final part, we see the fruits of his labours. The song does come together, and the kids love it. He says, that's great. This is really fun. It reminds me of that plotline from Parks and Rec. Trigger warning, Chris Pratt. So Andy is like a musician, and he plays a show for some kids, and he really enjoys it.
Everybody pees the bed, just something that we do.
You got 6 bears. Like, he's reluctant to do it because he's a real musician, you know? He doesn't make kids music. But in the end, it's just fun. And he goes with it. And he has a good time.
I, for instance, peed the bed till I was 32.
Sam takes the music seriously. He started a band, they made a demo, and he was reluctant to, like, lower himself to kids' music. But he's chilled out. He enjoys it. It's just fun. And it makes the kids happy. And that's more important than making some, like, dark, emotional, grown-up album. He doesn't have to prove himself to anyone anymore, that he's an adult. He's allowed to just enjoy making the kids' music, connecting to that, like, inner child, doing fun things just for the fun. Love him. Love him. So, here are my closing thoughts. I didn't realise how much I loved Sam until I started making this video. I don't know what it is. The optimism, his friendly little attitude, his ridiculous hair, the fact that he has the same name as my husband. That probably has something to do with it, like, psychologically, you know. But yeah, you wouldn't expect me to love him so much, because I am a Shane girly at heart, and Sam is like the anti-Shane. Look at this. You could not see 2 men more different. No, my husband. He's so pure and wholesome and optimistic. Always tries to make the best of things. Young, full of energy. He just has this, like, charisma to him. And I really enjoy the complexities of him as well. Like, you would think that with a golden retriever character like this, he would have no trauma, you know? But he does. It's not that he's naive because he doesn't know about the world. I mean, it is that a little bit. But he has that line in The 14 Heart where he says, I'll make the best of it. I always do. So he knows that. He knows that he makes the best of things. It's not an instinct or just something he does. It's deliberate. If we go back to Everything Everywhere All at Once, spoilers, although it will not spoil the movie, it's a great movie. I've seen it like 3 times. Evelyn is the main character who sees all these different possibilities. Like I said before, kind of like that ADHD brain, decision paralysis. She's struggling to live in one reality. She keeps bouncing between them. And because of this, she can't help but get the feeling like nothing matters. Because when you see everything play out in infinite possibility, it makes the world that you're actually living in seem meaningless and random. The universe is just chaos. We should just give up. But her husband, Waylon, best character, is the one that like turns things around for her. She's been looking down at him the whole movie, kind of feeling resentful of him, thinking he's just unserious and naive and unambitious and like a pushover, because he is this like endlessly optimistic, positive character. And towards the end of the movie, when everything seems meaningless and lost, he reveals that his positivity is actually very deliberate. When I choose to see the good side of things, I'm not being naive. It is strategic and necessary. It's how I've learned to survive through everything. I know you see yourself as a fighter. Well, I see myself as one too. This is how I fight. Sorry, I've been talking for so long. I'm so raspy. So there's a Medium article I found called Kindness as a Weapon, an analysis of Waymond from Everything Everywhere All at Once by Reacher, and they write, Waymond, unlike his father-in-law, his wife, and his daughter, uses kindness and empathy as a tool when encountering these struggles in life. Not because he's weak, but because it's necessary for the future. To see the bright side of life is a way to keep yourself sane in this insane world, in order to make peace and make connections with others who might also be struggling with something. It's a means to the next chance you have at love and life. Not to happiness, maybe not permanently, but it's a chance. It gives you a fighting chance to keep moving forward. If nothing in the universe matters, then all of our actions, our kindness, empathy, and necessity to keep on going every single day, minute, and second matter. If nothing matters, then everything matters. Do you see where I'm going with this? Sam's presented with this stressful, unfair reality of his dad being away at war, his mum not coping well, his little brother in the middle of it all. And he could just be like super depressed about it. I don't think anyone would blame him. But he chooses kindness. It's easy to lose meaning in the chaos of it all, but the one thing we can all hold on to is our humanity, our empathy. And he holds onto it so tightly. I think it's comforting for me. I have depression. I am always being the Evelyn, thinking about how nothing matters. Oh, I should be doing X, Y, and Z. That's partly why I find Shane cathartic, but we'll get to that. And then someone like Sam comes along and he's like, hey, life is good. Be grateful. And I'm like, you know what, Sam? Okay. It's a pretty good life. I love him. What a king. A tier. So his summit dialogue is, I feel like I've changed a lot from when we first met. You know? You might call it maturity. But I'm at a place now where I'm actually really excited about our future together, even if that means just doing normal stuff. Like, buying groceries and changing diapers. And what else is there to say about that? So what I do when I write these videos is I don't look at the summit dialogue until I get to the part where I'm writing about the summit dialogue, because the summit dialogue tends to give away a lot of the themes. And to me, it feels like cheating. It feels like looking, at the answers at the back of the book, or like at the end of a book before you've read it. But it's so rewarding to get to that point and read it and just be like, yes, I was right, He's excited about your future together, even though it's kind of mundane because everything matters, because he's come into his own. He's in control of his life, and out of all of the endless possibilities, he chooses you. He's excited about your future of buying groceries and changing diapers. He's happy just doing laundry and taxes with you. Okay, we have reached the end of the deepest dive. Oh, the divorce dialogue? You want me to divorce him? No. Don't make me. Please don't make me. Okay. Fine. If you insist. I'm sorry, it's not me. It's not my choice. I'm sorry. His divorce dialogue is, "I'm sorry, player. I don't think I can still be your friend." Okay. Wow. Fuck you. Are you happy now? Are you? You sick bastards. So to give a little more context for this line, we are going to have to go way back to when Sam was just our boyfriend. I missed that. Simpler times. I haven't been including these in the videos because I kind of forgot. But all the characters also have breakup dialogue as well as divorce dialogue. So I didn't know this until relatively recently, but if you put the bouquet into a furnace and like burn it a little, you get the wilted bouquet and you can use that to break up with someone. Fucking savage. So Sam's breakup dialogue is, "Wait, what? I thought we were doing okay. I guess I was way off. All right then. Yeah, sure. We can still be friends." Bro, reading through all of the breakup dialogue. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's so sad. I mean, if you hate yourself like me, then do it. But if you don't, then don't. So when you break up with him, he says you can still be friends. But when you divorce him, he doesn't think he can still be your friend. And I guess it's probably partly because of like different levels of investment. It's a lot more serious to be married than it is to be dating. And I also think it's to do with that level of closeness. You know, we were talking about how your friendship with him is like quite emotionally close. And he does specifically say in the 10 Heart scene, "I'm happy we've grown so close." You know, we said that he values your friendship because of that closeness. So I think when you're dating, it's still worth it for him to keep that friendship in his life because it's so special to him. But then when you get divorced, it's not worth it. It's too much pain. I'm gonna put it back up. He gets special treatment because he's my real husband. I'm sorry, honey. Take me back. There we go. I don't usually do this. All is right with the world. Okay, now we have reached the end of the deepest dive into Sam from Stardew Valley. Thank you for hanging out with me. If you liked the video, give it a like, subscribe to my channel, join my Discord, leave me a cute comment. I've gotten so much more comfortable doing these videos that I'm just like... What's up? Hello, tens of thousands of strangers. How are you doing? Tell me what you think of the audio. Interesting, thank you. Oh my god, next time. Next time. Next time we will be doing Ebony, Dementia, Darkness, Ravenway herself. I remember someone commenting on one of the videos at one point that they would take a day off work when I put out the Sebastian video. So if that was you, let me know and I'll try and like give you a heads up so you could book a day off. I do like him more now. I said in the Mary video that he pissed me off, but I have since read multiple Sebastian fanfictions for work to try and understand why people like him so much. And I do get it now. There does seem to be... Wait, no, I can't just start. I'm not going to give away my thesis right now. You gotta wait. Thank you again to Anna Luisa for sponsoring this video. Click the link in my description to check him out. And yeah, I will see you in the Sebastian video. And then it's the Shade video. I can't express to you how it makes me feel. I started writing it already. I couldn't help it. I couldn't. That's gonna be one to take a day off for. That's gonna be like 4 hours. I love it. My problematic fave. My little slob. Alrighty. Love you lots. Hope you're doing well. And I will see you in the next video. Wait, let me do the Casey Neistat. Meow. I'm still here. Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. And like I said, you would think that this, like, Evanescence ass Raven... What's her name? Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. You'd think that this Evanescence ass... You'd think that this... Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. Ebony, Dementia... Ebony, Darkness, Dementia, Ravenway. Ebony, Dementia... Ebony, Darkness...